Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 30th episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraiya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. It has been 3 days since Jiraiya left with Tsunade and Itachi for the Land of Iron, and so far, it seemed that calmness had finally replaced the tension following the devastating Akatsuki attack. People continued working tirelessly on the reconstruction of the village, which went quite fast thanks to the effort of all its ninjas, but among them, those with unique abilities. In just those 3 days, Tenzo, Rin, and Kaida managed to replace about two-thirds of the houses that were completely destroyed by creating new ones with their wood release. However, their powers only went so far, and most of those houses still needed glasses, plumbing, electricity, and furniture, but they were habitable and definitely beat sleeping in the streets. Other ninjas that sped up the reconstruction process were Choji and the rest of his clanmates, whose body expansion jutsu made rebuilding houses as easy as if they were toys, while Gaara's control over sand provided similar results. And naturally, Naruto's army of clones provided a massive boost to the workforce, speeding the process even further. At this pace, maybe we'll have most of the village rebuilt by the time Dad gets back from the Land of Iron, Naruto said in pride, as he watched his clones work. The summit would be in a week and a half, and Jiraiya would take at least another week to get back to Konoha. As the clones started to dispel little by little, Naruto's brain received their memories, and with them, a little of their mental fatigue and exhaustion. Man, I thought using clones would get me out of the hard work, Naruto complained to no one in particular. His hands went to his right pocket, where it found something. Pulling it out, it was the gift that his father had given him during their last conversation before he had to depart for the Land of Iron. Maybe it's a good time to put this to use. I could use some relaxing. I think I could agree with that, Naruto-kun, a female voice said. Naruto turned around, and saw Hinata standing in front of him. Oh, hey, Haim, Naruto greeted her with a kiss on the lips. What's up? I just finished helping with the rebuilding of some houses, and decided to call it a day for now, Hinata replied, sounding a little exhausted. Do you have any plans? As a matter of fact, I do, the blonde replied, as he handed her the item in question. Wordlessly, Hinata took it and gave it a good look. Her eyes opened up in surprise a little. Oh, Hinata said, fighting a blush from developing on her pale face. You plan to use this today? With us? I was planning to use it with all of our friends, Naruto told her. You said it would be nice if we did something together as a group, and I think this is a pretty good chance. I see, Hinata said, before nodding. Yes, with how much everybody is working, I guess they also deserve a little reward and relaxation. Nice. Hopefully nobody will have any plans for this afternoon, Naruto said. Can you go look for your cousin's team and Shikamaru's team? I'll get Karen's team and Kakashi-sensei's team myself. Alright. I'll see you in the place in an hour, Hinata said with a nod, before flying away. Hyuga Estate Hikari was in her study, which used to belong to her husband when he was alive, reading a scroll. It wasn't just any scroll, but one of those the Moon Acolytes had brought with them to Konoha. The former but still acting clan head had shown a lot of interest in knowing the true story of her clan, which was mired in mysteries due to the clan's nomadic nature prior joining Konoha. Most of the historical documents, even if they were well preserved, showed their age. That's why Hikari ordered the clan scholars to instantly copy them and translate them to a more modern version of their language in order to make their reading far easier. Even if the acolytes themselves, as well as Hinata, already told them the true history of their clan, there were many details that they left out. The history of the Otsutsuki and later the Hyuga spanned for over 1,000 years, and thus there was a lot to cover. Hikari believed that, by carefully studying their history, they could uncover more clan secrets. Because who said that the Tensigan was the only one? However, there was a part that left her intrigued. One that, no matter how many documents revised, she simply couldn't find a proper answer. So, rolling the scroll, she got up from her chair and decided to ask somebody for answers. It didn't take her long to find the person she was looking for. When he wasn't overseeing her daughter's training with the Tensigan, Takuya was often in the Hyuga library, alongside other acolytes and more studious Hyuga members, working on copying said historical documents, reading the books and scrolls they already had, or organizing the library as a whole. Little by little, Takuya had made that place into his little domain. Not that any of the Hyuga minded, since most saw it as a boring, thankless job, and were grateful to have somebody willing to keep their library organized. Right now, the leader of the Moon Acolytes was putting in the shelves some scrolls that had just been copied. He quickly noticed Hikari's presence. "Ah, Hikari-sama," the older man said, making a bow. "What can I do for you?" Hikari nodded back and walked towards him, handing him the scroll before speaking. "I have decided to educate myself on the history of our clan and our ancestors. Today I have been reading that scroll." "Ah, the fall of the main Otsutsuki clan, and their exile on Earth," the monk said, nodding as he quickly read the unfurled scroll. "A very poignant point of the history of both your clan and my order." "Indeed. However, there's something I can't understand," Hikari said. Takuya smiled and rolled the scroll again. "Well, that's why I'm here. I'm more than happy to explain anything you want to know. You see, in all the records I reviewed, they mention a terrible weapon created by the branch Otsutsuki," Hikari began. "But none of them specify the nature of that weapon. I thought that maybe you could cast some light upon this mystery." Takuya's face darkened a little as his smile vanished. "I'm afraid, my dear Hikari-sama, that neither me nor the acolytes know about that," Takuya replied. "All we know is that it was a weapon of terrible power. Unfortunately, the ensuing war and destruction, there was no time nor opportunity to make an extensive record of such weapon. In fact, many of our records were lost to that war. They were either destroyed or remain on the moon." "I see. The weapon also remains on the moon, correct?" Hikari asked. "I'm afraid so, Hikari-sama," Takuya replied. "Then how can we destroy a weapon that brought down the Otsutsuki clan when it was in its prime?" Hikari asked. "Because it's said to be a weapon that can match and even surpass the Tensigan." "I'm afraid I have no answer for that, Hikari-sama," Takuya gravely said. Training Ground 7 Kiba, Tamaki, and Shino were in the middle of an intense training session, a spar against Kakashi using the Sharingan. The Inazuka heir and the cat Kunoichi were covered in sweat and dirt, breathing heavily, but were smiling confidently. Shino, on the other hand, looked far less exhausted and dirty, though his body language revealed that he hadn't been merely watching while his teammates fought. "What about that, Kakashi-sensei?" Tamaki asked, eager for praise. "Okay, I admit it," Kakashi replied. "At first I had my doubts, but both you and Kiba managed to do it." "Ha, of course we did," Kiba boasted, with Akamaru vigorously barking in agreement. "Did you have any doubts?" "I have to admit, it was quite an exercise of creativity and outside-the-box thinking on your part," Shino chimed in. It wasn't really that hard," Tamaki said, with a dismissive hand wave. "There are countless ways to circumvent a jutsu's weakness. Kiba and I just used one of the most obvious. Even then, it's not something I can dash." "Hey," a new voice said, interrupting Shino. Everybody turned around to see Naruto happily running towards them. Their stances relaxed as they came closer and walked towards the blonde in order to meet him in the middle. "Hey, look at that. That's too good to be a coincidence," Kiba said, grinning wildly. "Hey Naruto, you came here just in time. Fight me. I have a new jutsu that dash. While I appreciate your passion, I doubt Naruto came here thinking in fighting you, Kiba," Kakashi interrupted him. "Besides, you should know that, even with our new jutsu, Naruto would still be too much for us," Tamaki reminded him. Kiba's excitement was so big, he felt he could take on any opponent, Naruto included. And while in another time he would have argued with Tamaki for that, the more rational part of his brain won out, and all he did was cross his arms and huff in annoyance. Okay, Waveter, Kiba said in resignation. But I'm not going to stop training until the gap between us closes. I'll be holding you to that boast, Kiba, Kakashi said in his jovial tone, but everybody could sense "you're going to regret saying that" there. He then turned towards the blonde. So, what can we do for you, Naruto? I wanted to ask Kiba, Tamaki, and Shino something, Naruto began, as he pulled a small, crumpled paper out of his pocket. He straightened the paper as much as he could, and showed it to his friends. Dad gave me this before he left for the Kage summit. He thought that we could use some relaxation after the whole debacle with Danzo and the Akatsuki. Shino held the paper between his hands, as he and his teammates and sensei read it. It was a coupon for one of Konoha's most expensive hot springs, cutting its price per person in more than half. However, the coupon was only valid for large groups, meaning 10 people or more. And on top of that, said group would have one of the springs reserved for them, instead of having to share it with others. I thought we could spend the afternoon there, and then have a nice dinner together, Naruto said. I already asked Shikamaru's team, and they said yes. Hinataheim is asking Karen and Niji's team, respectively, to come. Yeah, count me in. Kiba excitedly said. After how hard we worked today, we deserve a reward. It's okay if I ask Rin to come with us. Tamaki asked. I also thought that Fu would enjoy some time in the hot springs as well, Shino added. Sure, the more the merrier. Naruto happily agreed. Sorry for asking, but it's that invitation just for my students? Or are the sensei invited as well? Kakashi asked. Yeah, you and the other sensei can come if you want to, Naruto said. The coupon doesn't say anything about how big the group must be. Anyway, it's so great to know that you'll be coming. Meet us at the entrance at 5 sharp. And thus, Naruto left as quickly as he had come. It was so nice that Naruto decided to invite us grown-ups as well, Kakashi said, sounding pleased. Don't worry, I'll make sure none of us get in your way or anything. Anyway, how about if we end the training for today? Sure, I want to get ready for the hot springs, Tamaki agreed. Kiba and Shino nodded as well. And with that, the group dispersed. However, as they returned to their homes, there was a single thought that filled both Kiba, Shino, and Tamaki's heads. We will be able to see Kakashi-sensei without the mask. Hot springs. That afternoon after picking Haku up, Naruto and Hinata arrived at the hot springs. They noticed there were already more people there, a pretty large crowd. In fact, they were the last ones to arrive. Team Sky, Kakashi, Shizune, and Asuma. Kurenai was also there, presumably coming with her husband. The hot springs were going to be pretty crowded today. Hey there. Naruto greeted the group, as he and his teammates walked closer. Good to see that you managed to come. We already told you that we would come, didn't we? Niji asked. It would be rude if we decided to just leave you hanging after that. Hey, Ten. Haku happily said, as he walked towards his girlfriend. She greeted him with a kiss. I'm so glad you could came. Yeah, it feels like we haven't been together for months. Ten said, just as gleeful. Though wouldn't you melt if you go into the hot springs? The water is pretty hot. I think my eyes can manage, Haku said with a chuckle. He found that joke a bit cringy, but decided to humor his girlfriend. Thanks a lot for this invitation, Naruto-kun. Lee excitedly said. However, now I must think of something to return such generosity. Too bad I can't think in anything yet. It's okay, Lee. It's my dad who dash, and if I can't think anything, I'll climb the Hokage monument with one hand with weights on my belt. Lee declared, just as excited. Well done. There's nothing to stimulate the mind that intense exercise, Lee. Guy told Lee in a congratulatory manner. Niji merely sighed, while Tenten shook her head. I have to agree with Lee on this one, Naruto, Shikamaru said. Usually all the stuff you organize is about training and the like, but a relaxing day at the hot spring? Heh, that's something I can't miss. Yeah, it was a pretty good idea, Choji added, nodding. By the way, Naruto, you told us that there was no limit to the size of the group, right? Yeah, what about it? Naruto asked. Well, I did ask Karui if she wanted to come, Choji replied. I asked the same to Temari, Shikamaru said. She was so happy to hear that. With some luck, she may forgive all the misgivings from the past months. Oh, yes. I remember that those Kyumo and Suna ninjas were in the village. Oh shit. I totally forgot to extend an invitation to Gaara. Maybe I can send a clone, the blonde distressingly thought. Yeah, Naruto said, now having doubts about the size of the group. As long as I also brought Shursui with me, Shizun chimed in. The blonde noticed that the oldest Uchiha was indeed besides Naruto's surrogate sister, who smiled and waved at him happily. We don't have much of a chance to do something like this together. Yeah, it was such a nice detail on your part, Naruto. Shursui added. I also brought Sai, Ino intervened, pulling the pale brunette closer to her. Ino thinks that such gathering will be good for both my rehabilitation and to train my social skills, Sai stated. Okay, Naruto said. In that case, we should wait for the rest of the people that the others have told to come before going all in. I think we won't have to wait much, Hinata said. Naruto turned around and saw the trio of Kyumo ninjas that had delivered the Reikage message walking towards them. Naturally, the three of them looked way happier than they have been in the past days. A smile formed on Choji as he went to greet the girl he had a crush on. Oh man, hot springs. I can't wait to get to them. I have never been in one. Omoy excitedly said. Same here, T added. After all these stressful days, we are in desperate need of relaxation. Oh, Karui brought her teammates too, Naruto noticed, as he started to sweat a little. There was no way all of them could fit inside 2 hot springs alone. Naruto-kun, Hinata said, tapping his shoulder. He turned towards his girlfriend, who wordlessly pointed back. Naruto turned around and saw Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari. Of course, it was obvious that Temari would ask her brothers to come with her. However, they weren't the only ones. Walking besides them was another trio of Suna ninjas, Matsuri, Yukata, and Mikashi. Hey, look at that. It seems that everybody is here already, Kankuro observed, before he turned at his sister. Told you were spending way too much time getting ready. Hey, I don't get many chances to go to a hot spring, so I wanted to make sure to have everything. Temari angrily shot back. As Kankuro and Temari continued to argue, Gaara walked towards Naruto. In Suna's name, thank you for your invitation, Naruto, Gaara told the blonde in his usual stoic tone. Once again, you're a credit to Konoha's hospitality. Yay, hot springs! Yukata chimed in. Let's hope there are mixed baths, Matsuri whispered, as she shot a look at Gaara, while blushing a little. Sure, you're helping us a lot, so this is the least we could have done for you. Naruto said, laughing awkwardly. He sighed in relief inwardly. Well, that solves one problem. At least I won't come off as rude for forgetting to invite him. The blonde then looked at the truly massive group that had formed at the entrance of the hot springs, all of them speaking with each other, the sound of their chattering combining into a cacophony of multiple conversations chaotically intermingled with each other. Let's get everybody inside before more people decide to show up, Naruto said. There were 3 hot springs, one for men, another for women, and another mixed, the 3 of them sharing the same spring, separated by a divider made of bamboo. Naturally, most couples wanted to be in the mixed one in order to be with their significant other, but there was a problem. Just like Naruto had predicted, there were too many of them and they wouldn't fit inside the mixed bath. The owners of the springs, a couple in their early 60s, not wanting to lose such a large group, devised a solution. They removed the dividers and decided to make the springs into a single, mixed bath. This solution seemed to please everybody, who quickly rushed towards the changing room, so they could enjoy the hot baths. Undisclosed location. After a rather long trek, Kisame and Deidara finally reached their goal, much to their relief. Deidara was tired of walking and complained about his feet hurting. He wanted to use his clay constructs to just fly there, but Obito had told him that doing so would alert the enemy of their presence, and was glad that they were done walking. Kisame was tired of Deidara's constant complaints, and was glad that he didn't have to hear the IWA missing Nin's grouses. Still, the perspective of a good battle was enough to push the frustration he had built over the past few days away. So, this is the place, Deidara said, as he eyed the fortress cleverly built into the mountain, which could be easily missed unless you knew what were you looking for. Such a place would be hard to siege or break into, even with a large army. That's it, if Setsu's intel is correct. Our intel has always been good, Deidara-san, Kisame replied. There's no reason to doubt our spymaster. I dunno, it looks kind of small, Deidara said, eyeing the place with a critical eye. Not the place I'll use a hideout. Appearances can be deceiving, Kisame observed. The fortress could extend into the mountain, or even down below. Besides, if I needed to hide, I'd use a small place as not to draw attention. Whatever. So, what's the plan? Deidara asked. I think I should fly above the place, drop some of my art, force the son of a bitch out, then we crush him between the two of us. Simple, fast and effective. While I do agree with your plan, we should make sure there aren't any secret doors or escape routes he can use to evade us, Kisame told Deidara, as he gave him a mocking grin. We don't want a repeat of what happened our last mission, do we? You were there with me, you asshole. It was as much your fault as it was mine, the blonde heatedly protested. I know. That's why I said we should approach this mission with care, Kisame said, grinning at the IWA missing Nin. Why did you think I was talking about you alone? Deidara just huffed and crossed his arms. Kisame ignored him and watched the mountain the fortress was built on more closely. Thankfully this mountain isn't too big. Let's circle it while we look for any hidden exit, Kisame proposed. I take the left, you take the right. Understood. Both Akatsuki split for the time moment, as they prepared the terrain for their impending hunt. Back in Konoha inside the hot springs, Naruto and Hinata were resting as the hot water nursed their bodies. The two of them were leaning against one of the walls of the stone, the water reaching to their shoulders. Hinata's head was resting on Naruto's shoulder. Ah, the Hyuga clan head moaned. This is so good, I don't know why we didn't do this any time sooner. Don't you agree, Naruto-kun? Indeed, Naruto said, so relaxed it almost sounded like a purr. All my worries seem so far away, this is perfect. You, me, and literally dozens of people around us. Because yes, even if the hot springs were pretty big now that the three pools had been merged into one, it was bursting with people, to the point that the water level had raised considerably. Fortunately, everybody else was quiet, as they also either relaxed, or merely talked with their friends or significant others. Cannonball. That's it, until Fu joined them, and bombed into the spring so hard, she created a large wave of hot water, splashing everybody around her. Fu happily emerged from the water, as several people started to telling her off. Goddamn Fu. You can't do that in a hot spring. This is not a kiddie pool. Sheesh, I get it, I get it. Fu replied, as she held her hands defensively. You should try to chill out a bit, you know. You'll live longer. Soon they quickly forgot about such small incident, and continued to relax, chatter and enjoy the warm and pleasant water. Kurenai was saying something to Asuma, who nodded, before the Genjutsu mistress waddled her way to where Naruto and Hinata were relaxing. She'd wish Haku wasn't so far away from the other two, but it would have to do for now. "Hey, Naruto, Hinata," Kurenai called them. "Hello, Kurenai-sensei," Hinata greeted back. "So, enjoying the baths?" Naruto asked. "Plenty." "It was a very thoughtful gift, Naruto," Kurenai said with a smile. "Anyway, there's something I wanted to talk to you about, and I feel this is a good moment, as good as any other." "Let me guess, you're pregnant again," Naruto said with a cheeky grin. Kurenai clicked her tongue in annoyance, but decided to ignore the blonde's guess. "Remember Yakumo Kurama? The girl I trained before I was your sensei, and thought she was dead?" "Who wasn't dead and turned out to be a root agent," Hinata finished, already imagining what was she going to ask. "What about her?" Kurenai tensed up a little as she moved to the side. Well, turns out, Kurenai wasn't alone. Behind her was a girl with pale skin and shoulder-length brown hair. Like most women there, she had a towel wrapped around her body. She was visibly nervous and even a little uncomfortable. "This is her," Kurenai finished. "Yakumo, these are two of my new students, Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga." "Naruto, Hinata, meet Yakumo." Hi," Yakumo shyly said. Naruto and Hinata spent a few long, tense moments staring at her, without saying anything. Until Hinata's natural-born politeness won over, and returned the greeting. "Hello, Yakumo-san. I hope you're having a nice time with us," Hinata said. Sorry if I sound rude, but shouldn't she be in jail or something like that?" Naruto bluntly asked, raising an eyebrow. Kurenai sighed in resignation. Even if the Jinchuriki was indeed blunt to the point of being insensitive, he was raising a good point. She hoped they would be willing to give the last member of the Kurama clan another chance. Hokage-sama released the most mentally stable Root X agents under probation, living in foster homes. "Yakumo is living with us in the Sarutobi clan compound," Kurenai explained. "I thought that Yakumo being with more people her age would be good for her mental development. Sorry for not telling you about this before." "It's okay, Kurenai-sensei." "We understand," Hinata replied, before looking around. "However, there are far too many people here. Such a multitude might not be the best place for somebody in Yakumo's position," Hinata pointed out. "I know, but I don't have that many options." "You guys are my only hope," Kurenai said, in almost pleading tone. Just like Yakumo was not given the option to refuse Danzo. "She really needs friends her age, and I would consider it a huge favor if you agreed." "Kurenai-sensei, please, I don't want to be a burden." Yakumo began, but was interrupted by Hinata. "Nobody considers you a burden, Yakumo-san," Hinata said, before turning her eyes towards the raven-haired woman. "I know firsthand how much damage Danzo caused, and that most of his minions were also his victims. If by helping Yakumo-san I can help to undo some of that damage, I'm for it. I guess it would be very hypocritical of me to hold against somebody something that's out of their control," Naruto said. "So yeah, you can call me your friend if you wish so." "I thank you." "Thank you a lot," Yakumo said, bowing her head multiple times. "Again, I'm sorry for this," Kurenai insisted. Thankfully, unlike most Root agents, Yakumo hasn't been that long en route. Undoing Danzo's conditioning shouldn't take that much effort compared to other agents. "Not that I liked working for him," Yakumo said, shaking her head. "Being a Root ninja was horrible," Yakumo said, sobbing a little. "Don't worry, I think that the nightmare is already over," Hinata said sympathetically and placed a comforting hand on the brown-haired girl's shoulder. "Danzo is gone, and he will never be coming back. And Konoha will be all the better for it," Kurenai said with a nod. "I'm going back to Asuma and the other adults. I'll leave Yakumo in your care. If you need anything from me, just call. Oh, and introduce her to Haku, will you?" "Sure, you can leave her in our hands, Kurenai-sensei." Naruto said with a grin, giving the raven-haired woman a thumbs up. Kurenai smiled and nodded, before turning around and going back where all the adults were gathering. So, Yakumo, right? Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. Sorry for saying that you should be in jail. Don't be. I did quite a lot of awful things while working under Danzo. Including helping him escape the first time, the brunette said. She was about to say that she was also instrumental in the Rinnegan theft, which ended up in Akatsuki's hands, but decided against it. At least, for the time being. A few days ago, we were enemies. We weren't enemies because of your choice, Naruto said. And now we have the chance to choose to be your friends, Naruto said, nodding, before making a grimace. Okay, I think that sounded a little too cheesy, Hinata giggled. Cheesy or not, I think it was the right thing to say, Naruto-kun. It would be nice to have some friends, Yakumo softly said. I'm guessing that Danzo didn't allow you to grow attached to any of your fellow agents, did he? Naruto assumed. With that guy's stance on, a ninja should be an emotionless drone. No. He was adamant that there was nothing more important than the mission, Yakumo replied. And if we had to choose between the mission and the lives of our partners, we couldn't hesitate to choose the former. How horrible, Hinata said, scowling a little. And it wasn't just that, Yakumo continued. Everything has to be secondary to the mission, including our own lives. Though thankfully, I was never in a situation that demanded my life. I don't think I'd be able to do it. Guess that, since you're the last bearer of a powerful bloodline limit, he considered you less expendable than the rest of his goons, Hinata deduced. By the way, Yakumo, Naruto interceded. Do you think that Danzo would have liked seeing you like this? Having fun on a hot springs while chatting with us? This made the brown-haired girl laugh a little. Kami, no. We were banned from taking such activities that he considered wasteful. If we had no missions, we had to train all the time. Danzo would be fuming if we decided to do something purely for our pleasure. In that case, think that Danzo is watching you from wherever hellish afterlife he's now, and is completely impotent to do anything about it, Naruto told the brunette with a grin. Heck, she chuckled again. That's something I'd like to see. By the way, Yakumo-san, this time, it was Hinata's turn to intercede. Kurenai-sensei told us about you. Though she didn't mention other students. How is that you didn't have any teammates? It's custom for rookie ninjas to have teams of 3. Technically, I wasn't a ninja yet. Due to my medical condition, I couldn't afford to go to the academy, Yakumo explained. Hence why they had Kurenai-sensei teach me how to control my powers while Tsunade-sama worked on a treatment. I guess that, once I had graduated the academy, I would be assigned to a traditional 4-man team. Speaking of which, where is your other teammate? Kurenai-sensei told me she was training 3 people. Ah, yes, Haku. He's probably locking lips with Tenten, Naruto said, as he looked around, trying to discern his other teammate among the crowd. However, Hinata beat him to the punch thanks to her Tensigen. Found him. And your prediction was a correct one, Naruto-kun. I knew it, Naruto said, shaking his head, but grinning a little. Come on, Yakumo. You need to meet Haku. This Haku guy, what kind of person is he? Yakumo asked. Well, you can say that he is, Naruto began, trying to look for the most suitable words to describe his teammate. His lips formed a grin when he found them. A pretty cool guy. Hinata merely rolled her eyes. You know, it's kinda weird seeing you guys like that, Shikamaru said. Rather than his team, Shikamaru chose to take a spot near the Suna ninjas, clearly to be near his girlfriend. Speaking of which, Temari's hair was no longer styled in 4 ponytails, but let it fall loose on her back, revealing it to be deceptively long. I'm so used seeing you with your ponytails that you almost look like a different person, Shikamaru continued, before his eyes drifted towards Kenkuro, who was obviously not wearing any face paint on his face nor a black hood over his head. And that goes double to you. Look who's talking, Kankuro said, with an eye roll. Guess that your hair isn't permanently stuck in the shape of pineapple after all. Kenkuro's comment made Temari giggle and Shikamaru to scowl a little. Just like Temari, Shikamaru wasn't wearing his hair in a ponytail either, letting it loose. Yeah, but in my case the contrast isn't so big, Shikamaru tried to defend himself, though he decided it was probably better to change the topic before his girlfriend and her brother took offense. Anyway, are you enjoying the baths? I don't think there are any in Suna or the Land of Wind. Nope, it wasn't Kenkuro nor Temari who replied, but Matsuri, who was sitting between Gaara and Yukata. And I'm so glad you guys invited us to this place. Like, we came here on a mission, but being allowed into a hot spring during it's so cool. But water in a hot spring is hot, not cool, Yukata chimed in, looked a bit confused. I mean, it's like, in the name. It was a figure of speech, Yukata-chan, Matsuri replied, sounding a little tired. We already went through this before. We did? Oh, right, yes. Yukata said, smiling and nodding. By the way, how many times can we go here? We came here to help Konoha rebuild, Yukata, Gaara called out. Not to relax. This is a gesture of their gratitude, not something to be done every day. Though you can come here every day if you want, Shikamaru added. Though don't expect to pay as little as you did today. We managed to get such a huge discount thanks to a coupon Naruto had. I didn't bring that much money, Yukata said, before an idea dawned upon her. Oh, I know. Gaara-sama, can we get the hot springs price discounted from our mission revenue? Like I said before, this is a mission to help an ally village. None of us are getting paid for this, Gaara said. We don't. Yukata replied, outraged. Shucks. If it makes you feel any better, think that this stay at the hot springs is Konoha's way of repaying us, Gaara told her. I'd like to be paid in hot spring tickets rather than money, Yukata said. It feels nicer. Or you can spend the money you earn on missions on hot springs if you wish. Shikamaru suggested. That works too. Yukata happily agreed. Shikamaru grimaced and looked at his girlfriend. Is this girl for real? He whispered to her. Temari sighed and nodded. She can be kind of absent-minded. But she's a brave and a sweet girl. Regardless of her other qualities, I don't think I could stand being near somebody so lacking in the brain department, Shikamaru said in a disapproving tone. I don't think my sanity could hold for long. She isn't so bad once you get used to her, Temari said with a shrug, as she shifted on her seat. It takes some time, though. Hey, Shikamaru said, as she grabbed one of Temari's biceps. It's my imagination, or did these get even bigger? Why yes, Shikamaru, I've been training a lot, thanks for your compliment, Temari said in an overly sarcastic tone, as she narrowed her eyes dangerously at the Nara. Hey, I didn't mean to disparage you, Shikamaru said, holding his hands in defense. I was simply surprised. It was just a harmless comment. I'm not used to seeing you without clothes, you know. You have a very fit body. Maybe not fit enough. After my loss against Akatsuki and Gaara almost dying, we decided to redouble our training. Being so close to death really opens your eyes. Temari told him. She shifted her position again, subtly inching closer to her boyfriend. What about you? Aren't you training either? Well, as you can see, right now I'm kind of busy picking up the pieces of our wrecked village, Shikamaru dryly said. But yeah, I am. Asuma-sensei says that we're ready for a promotion, and both my teammates and I are getting ready for it. Temari smiled, pleased, and nodded. Good. You have a lot of talent, Shikamaru, and it would be a pity if you decided to waste it by staying a rank unbefitting to you just because it's too troublesome. Hey, I don't say that often, do I? Shikamaru protested. I'm trying to complain less about hard work. That's good, Temari said with a grin. Otherwise, you and I wouldn't last much longer together. Though I hope you don't mind if I don't end up as jacked up as you are, Shikamaru said, now his turn to grin. Temari scowled at him and slapped his shoulder while splashing some water. Oh, come on. I'm not that jacked up. I thought you'd be happy I have no complex about dating a woman stronger than I am, Shikamaru added, his grin still present. People as nonchalant as you rarely have any complex about anything, Temari replied. Besides, as much as I train, I don't think I'll ever will or want to end up as big as her. Temari pointed to another group near them, and Shikamaru immediately realized who she was pointing out. Fu was talking happily with the animal squad, and now that he had set his eyes on her, he realized how muscular the girl was. Temari could be considered skinny by comparison. Man, look at that broad back, Shikamaru said. I didn't even know that we had so many muscles there. I feel sorry for Shino if that girl feels like playing rough in the bed, Temari sympathetically said. Though I'd prefer if your eyes were only on my body, you know. You won't have a chance like this in some time, so you better take your chance. Shikamaru smiled. If you put it that way, how can I say no? Meanwhile, near Shikamaru and Temari, the Chunin of Kakashi's animal squad were rather pissed that something they planned didn't go as expected. They had thought that being at a hot spring would force their sensei to take their mask off, but apparently not. I can't believe it. Kiba protested, throwing his hands in the air, making a splash once they came down. We're at a hot springs, and the asshole still keeps his mask on. They were all expectantly waiting for Kakashi to appear unmasked when they heard he was also going to go to the hot springs. But even if he wasn't wearing anything under his neck, the mask remained firmly in place. The guy must be suffocating with all this steam, Tamaki said, narrowing her eyes at her sensei. He doesn't look like he's suffocating to me, Shino replied, also looking at Kakashi. Maybe it's easier to breathe through that mask than it appears at first sight. And what about you? Kiba asked, as he moved closer towards Shino. Why are you still wearing those shades? I like wearing them, even in a place like this. Is that a problem to you? Shino defiantly answered. Come on, leave Shino alone, Fu interceded, as she adjusted the towel wrapped around her body. A man must have some mystery. That makes them more attractive to us, Fu said, as she placed an arm around Shino's shoulders, pulling the Aburame slightly closer to her. In Kakashi's case, I don't think it's working, or if that's his intention, Tamaki noted. I don't think I ever saw Kakashi-sensei with a woman, ever. Or a man, Kiba added. Though he and Gai-sensei tend to hang out a lot, correction, Gai-sensei is the one who hounds Kakashi-sensei, Tamaki observed. Going back to the original topic, Shino interceded, clearly not wanting to discuss his sensei's possible sexuality. There's somebody who may solve the issue regarding what does Kakashi hides behind his mask, the Aburame mayor said, as he nodded towards a girl coming from the female locker room, Rin Noera. The brown-haired girl noticed the trio, and quickly moved towards them. Hey guys! Rin happily greeted them as she entered the water. Wow, the water is just perfect. So warm. It was really nice of Naruto to invite us here, wasn't it? Rin, you've known Kakashi since you were a little kid, Kiba impatiently said, ignoring the medicnine's greeting. Can you tell us what's under his mask? Huh? Rin dumbly asked, before her brain actually processed the question. She smiled awkwardly. I'm afraid I have no idea. What? Kiba shouted, startling the medicnine a little. You're telling us that Kakashi-sensei wore that mask since he was 5? Tamaki asked, just as skeptical. Pretty much, yeah, Rin said. There were many people, including Obito and I, who wanted to know what does he look under that mask. None of us soused. Whatever secret Kakashi is hiding, he guards it with zeal. Maybe a scar, or a birth deformity. Kiba guessed. Because I can't think why he's so averse to show his face. Maybe he does to create an aura of mystery around him. I admit that's something that I found attractive of him, Rin confessed. Heh, that's exactly what Fu said, Tamaki said, turning towards her Takigakure friend. However, the green-haired girl wasn't there anymore. Fu? Coming. Fu chirped as she forded her way back to the group. However, they noticed that she wasn't alone, as a certain silver-haired man followed her. Kakashi-sensei? Tamaki asked. Why did you bring him? Kiba asked. Well, Fu told me that you were talking about me, so I thought it would be fitting if I was part of your little chat, given that I'm the topic, Kakashi nonchalantly said, giving them his usual eye smile. More specifically, why I hide my face under a mask all the time. So I asked him if he could come and show us his face, Fu helpfully added. And he said yes. Wait, that's it? That's what it takes? Just asking him to unmask? Kiba asked, his disbelief growing with each passing second. There are many people who have tried to see what's underneath my mask. They employed all sorts of ambushes, traps, and schemes, Kakashi began, as his visible eye rested on Rin, who laughed awkwardly as a faint blush colored her face. Though for some reason, nobody ever thought about asking. Until Fu, that's it. Anyway, here you go. Everybody held their breath as Kakashi removed his mask to reveal an admittedly good-looking but still mundane face. The Jonin smiled in amusement to their disappointment. No birth deformities or hideous scars crossing his face. He had a strong jawline and a mouth full of pearly white teeth. The closest thing to a facial defect would be a small dot under the left corner of his mouth. So, what's with those reactions? Kakashi asked, using an irritatingly jovial tone that bordered on mocking. You wanted to see my face, and now you're seeing it. But you're completely normal. Kiba protested. I think I'll take that as a compliment, Kakashi said, before pulling his mask up to his nose once again. What did you expect to see? Something worth hiding. Tamaki shouted as she punched the water with both fists in exasperation, splashing some hot water around. If you hide your face with such zeal, it has to be because of something meaningful. And didn't you think that maybe I wear a mask because I just like it? Kakashi asked. While it's a possibility, any line of logic would say that somebody who wears all the time tries to hide something, Shino intervened. If you weren't hiding something, then why is that whenever somebody tries to unmask you, you resisted so much? Kiba asked. If somebody sneaked up on you from behind and tried to pull your pants down, would you let him? Or would you fight him? Kakashi replied with another question. That's not the same thing, the Inuzuka protested. I can't see how they aren't, Kakashi said with a shrug, before turning around and moving back with the other adults. If that's everything, I'll leave you guys alone. The members of the animal squad, Rin and Fu, shared a moment of very awkward silence until the wood release user opened her mouth. So many years wondering what was under Kakashi's face, and all I had to do was ask, Rin said, mostly to herself. She then looked at everybody else. Do you guys feel stupid, or it's just me? Nope, I don't feel stupid. Fu brightly replied. And in the end, he turned out to look perfectly normal, Kiba added, sighing a little. You call that normal? Boy, your sensei looks really hot. I don't know why he hides such a handsome face behind that mask all the time, Fu commented before pulling Shino closer to herself. Of course, he's still nowhere near as cute as my Shino, that's for sure. Sometimes I feel that Kakashi only does the things he does to mess with people, Tamaki reflected. Because that's how I'm feeling right now. Everybody, both teens and adults, continued talking and having fun at the hot springs. They would remember that day as one of relaxation and enjoyment, not only because of the good time everybody got, but because it would be the last time they would be able to experience such pleasure for the foreseeable future. Land of Iron. A few days later, after a week of travel, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Itachi managed to reach the capital of the Land of Iron. There were still a few days until the summit began, and Jiraiya wanted to use that time to discuss with his two escorts possible strategies and topics to broach in what was going to be a five-way discussion. Hopefully, he could convince Kyumo and Iwa to join Konoha, Kiri, and Suna into an unfight front against Akatsuki. The trio of Konoha ninjas crossed the snow-covered city until they reached the Three Wolves Mountain. Inside said mountain was the Iron Fortress, seat of power of the samurai, from where the High Shogun ruled the small but powerful country. The entrance hall of the Iron Fortress was a huge, cavernous instance, so wide and long an entire army could fill it, and the roof so high it one needed to crank their neck to see it. Said roof was supported by massive pillars, evenly spread around the place. Despite being so big, it was also empty and scarce, with only torches on the walls providing some illumination. There were several groups of samurai guarding the place. Most of them wearing white full-body armors with gas masks that completely hid their faces. Other samurai wore red, bulkier armors, probably to show their higher rank. One of these red-armored samurai, flanked by two regular ones, walked towards the newcomers. "Hello, and welcome to the Land of Iron, ninjas of Konoha," the samurai officer greeted the Hokage and his escorts, making a polite bow. "You're the first to arrive. Though I must say we weren't expecting any of you to arrive so soon. I hope my early arrival is not a problem," Jiraiya said. "Not in the slightest. We already prepared all the guest rooms ahead of time precisely if something like this happened," the samurai explained. "While we don't mind you being early, you're going to have to wait some days until the others come. Hopefully you'll have a way to pass the time until the summit begins." "We do have, don't worry," Jiraiya told him. "Now, if you can show us where are we going to stay, we'd appreciate it. It has been a long journey in my escorts and I would wish to rest." "Sure," the samurai said as he and his two subordinates turned around and started to walk away, the Konoha ninjas following them. "We prepared 2 rooms, one for you and another for your escorts. We hope you find them to your liking. If it's possible, I'd prefer if one of my escorts shared a room with me," Jiraiya said, as he and Tsunade briefly exchanged a look. "I hope that's not a problem." "Of course, it can be arranged," the samurai said. The next days would indeed be boring, though Jiraiya and Tsunade knew how to use all that time to their enjoyment. "It seems that we didn't think this through," Jiraiya said. Jiraiya had no delusions about the kind of room the samurai had prepared for him. While it was custom for somebody as important as a Kage to be given a comfortable guest room, the Sannin was aware of the kind of lifestyle the samurai led, and thus he was already expecting a rather austere room. Said room was small and narrow, with only a single bed, a small nightstand besides it with an oil lamp, and a wooden wardrobe. Still, despite years of being used to their comfort of their fancy house, Jiraiya and Tsunade were more than capable of handling some austerity. However, there was a problem that they didn't account for when they requested a single room. "Well, with this cold, we were going to sleep very close to one another," Tsunade added. The bed they were sharing was individual, meaning that they had to squeeze themselves into it. And given that Jiraiya was tall and broad-shouldered, he sometimes unwillingly threatened to push the shorter and smaller Tsunade out of the bed. "At first I thought that we could take this as some sort of vacation," Tsunade began. "But I can't wait until this is over and we go back home. I miss our king-size bed and Konoha's warm temperatures. Then I must be making a lousy job keeping you warm, aren't I?" Jiraiya asked, half-jokingly. "But jokes apart, I do agree. I can't understand how so many people are willing to live in such a land. Something about living in a harsh place being good to build character, or some other nonsense," Tsunade said, rolling her eyes. The two of them fell into a short, comfortable silence, before Tsunade spoke again, though to change the topic. "So, how are you feeling? You know, at the prospect of having to deal with the other Kages." "I'd lie if I said that I'm 100% confident," Jiraiya admitted. "Though the fact that 2 of the other 4 Kages are already on my side is a good thing. Otherwise this would be much harder." Just remember what we've been preparing these past days, and you'll do it fine, Tsunade said, before giving Jiraiya a kiss in the lips. Besides, the escorts are allowed into the meeting, even if we aren't allowed to intervene in the discussion. I'll be there with you all the time. What would I do without you, Haim? Jiraiya said, kissing her again. Drink, whore, and overall, lead a destructive and aimless lifestyle? Tsunade asked. Ouch, Jiraiya grimaced. You don't pull your punches, do you? Never, she said with a cheeky grin. Though I'm not one to talk, to be honest. Their conversation was interrupted when somebody knocked the door. Hokage-sama, Tsunade-sama, are you presentable? Itachi's voice asked from the other side of the thick wooden door. He sounded like he had urgent news. Come in, Tsunade said. Itachi opened the door and entered the room while averting his gaze. However, once he saw both the Sannin were covered, he dared to look at them. While the two Sannin usually slept in the nude, the unmercifully cold climate from the land of iron beat such idea out of their minds, and had to keep some of their clothes when they went to bed, on top of several layers of thick blankets. Something wrong, Itachi? Jiraiya said, as both he and Tsunade pushed the blankets away and got out of the bed. After being thankful for the Sannin also wearing something from the waist down, he nodded. The last of the Kages has finally arrived. The samurai decided that now that we're all here, the summit can begin. Understood. No time to waste then, Jiraiya said, as he and Tsunade began to dress as quickly as possible. Once they ready, they exited the room, where a group of samurai were already waiting for them. The samurai lead the trio to the meeting room. On their way, they were joined by the rest of the Kages and their escorts being led by a group of samurai each. They saw the Raikage, accompanied by his two most trusted men Darui and C, like other Akashans. Raza brought with him Baki and Maki as well. Mei Terumi, whom was no longer sporting a pregnant belly, decided to bring Zabuza and Ainuri this time. The Tsuchikage was escorted by a tall, portly man with a round face and a big nose, and a woman with shoulder-length brown hair, with a single lock falling over a disproportionately large forehead. Odd, Tsunade whispered, as she looked at the Tsuchikage, whose face was hidden by their hat. That doesn't appear to be a Noki. After a rather long walk, they reached the meeting room, an open, spacious place with high roofs. It seemed the samurai favored them for some reason, decorated with banners displaying the kanji of the elements of the nations the Kages served. There were two tables, a small one where a wizened, unarmored samurai with a long gray mustache, a long gray goat, and bandaged head was sitting, flanked by other two unarmored samurai, the two of them with scars running down their faces. In front of him there was a much bigger table shaped like a horseshoe, presumably where the Kages would sit. Around the table there were 5 benches. Hello, Kages of the elemental nations, the samurai began. Please take a seat. Your bodyguards can rest in the benches. Jiraiya traded quick glances with Mei and Raza, which both nodded. Jiraiya quickly sat at the center of the table, with Mei sitting to his right and Raza to his left, forcing the Raikage and Tsuchikage to sit at the extremes of the table, meaning that they were not only isolated, but they were separated from each other as well, making them join forces against the other 3 all the more unlikely. My name is Mifune, High Shogun of the Land of Iron, and I shall be the moderator of this meeting. The samurai of the bandaged head, Mifune, introduced himself. Please, remove your hats and place them on the table. The Kages did as they were told, and as many people has suspected, that Tsuchikage wasn't a Noki, but a young girl no older than 18, with short black hair and black eyes, giving her an odd resemblance to Shizune. Raza was the first one to comment this. Oh ho ho, look at that. It seems that the fence-sitter finally decided to retire and pass the hat to somebody else, Raza commented in his usual snubbish tone. About time, somebody old enough to remember the first ninja war isn't suited to rule during modern times. Watch out your tongue, Kazekage, the young girl snapped. I won't tolerate anybody disrespect my grandpa, no matter if it's a Kage or not. Now, let's try not to start a heated argument so soon, May intervened, trying to calm the Tsuchikage down. Nobody asked you to intervene, Mizukage, the Tsuchikage said, glaring at May. Oh, and tell your mother she's still wanted for defecting IWA. May puckered her lips, pretending to be hurt. Are you still angry about that? My, it's true what they said about IWA and grudges. Plus, that's not a way to treat your family, is it? We're practically sisters, Kuratsuchi. The Tsuchikage, Kuratsuchi, narrowed her eyes at the Mizukage. Second cousins. And even if the blood of the Kinryu clan may run through our veins, that doesn't make us family. You have no idea how much you're breaking my heart, May said in a mocking tone. I always wanted to have a little sister. In the benches, Tsunade was carefully following the conversation. She was enjoying the revelation of the Tsuchikage and Mizukage being related, reminding her of the usual twists of her soap operas, but she was a bit lost. Itachi, Tsunade whispered, leaning close to him. How are those two related? And why is May's mother wanted in IWA? From what I had gathered, both May and Kuratsuchi's respective mothers are cousins belonging to the same clan, the Kinryu. The Kinryu clan members possess the lava release, and they're one of Iwa's 3 most important clans, Itachi started to explain. However, it seems that, while most clans, especially those with bloodline limits, tend to be watchful over their members' relationships in order to protect their secrets, the Kinryu, well, to put it lightly, they have a hard time keeping it inside their pants. Tsunade chortled, covering her mouth with one hand. This was getting better and better. Really? Yes. They do have a very liberal view towards sex and relationships, plus they tend to fall in love easily. The Tsuchikage and Earth Lord were willing to allow this, as long as they only married people native to the land of Earth. And May's mother fell in love with somebody from Kiri, right? Tsunade guessed. Exactly. It was during the Second Ninja War. May's mother defted IWA and returned to Kiri with her lover, whom she married shortly afterwards, Itachi continued explaining. As you can imagine, the Terumi clan was more than happy to welcome her among their ranks. The potential of a generation of ninjas with 2 bloodline limits, it was like a gift from the gods. Even if in the end, only May manifested both blood limits. No wonder that Kuratsuchi girl isn't that happy to see May. Her very existence is a reminder of how Kiri successfully stole a bloodline limit, Tsunade stated. Her eyes then moved towards the 2 IWA Jonin, who appeared to be ready to fight at any moment. What can you tell me about those 2? Should we worry about them? The big man is Akatsuchi, one of Iwa's top Jonin. No bloodline limit, but one of the best Earth release users there is, if the bingo book is to be believed, Itachi explained. The woman is Suzumabachi Kamizuru, leader of what's left of the Kamizuru clan, a clan that uses bees as weapons in a similar fashion to the Aburame's beetles. Though don't tell them I said that, since both clans hate each other to death. The Kamizuru clan used to be one of Iwa's 3 most important clans, but they lost most of their members during the past 2 wars, as well as most of their secret jutsu. Both she and her 2 younger brothers were away from IWA looking for something, some kind of lost family treasure that would return the clan back to its glory days. Given her presence here, I'd say they succeeded. Did you know that Inoki had retired, and put that girl in his place? Tsunade asked. Itachi shook his head. Hokage-sama had me watch Akatsuki's movements, so I didn't have the time nor the chance to see how the other villages were doing. It seems that she's his granddaughter, according to her, Tsunade mentioned. Granddaughter or not, she has to be a formidable kunoichi if she was deemed worthy of the Tsuchikage's hat, Itachi replied. Before things could escalate even further between the 2 female Kage, Mifune decided to intervene and put some order. I'd appreciate if you solve your personal quarrels once we're done with this meeting, Mifune interrupted the 2 bickering female Kages. Reikage-sama has convened this Kage summit to discuss a matter of utmost importance, Mifune said. The Reikage nodded and grunted something inaudible, inwardly thanking the samurai for bringing the discussion back on track. Reikage-sama, given that it was you who summoned the 5 Kage, you may speak first. Thank you, Mifune-san, the Reikage said, as the stood up from his chair. During the past few years, a mercenary group called Akatsuki made itself known. While at first they appeared to be yet another mercenary group with excessively low prices in order to compete with our villages, it later became apparent that they had some sort of agenda, the kidnapping of the 9 Jinchuriki for some nefarious purposes. A few months ago, the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails, Yujito ni, was abducted by 2 Akatsuki identified as Obito Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki. The Reikage's tone became harsher when he named the 2 kidnappers, glancing briefly at the Hokage and Mizukage. And a few weeks ago, the Jinchuriki of the 8 Tails, my own brother Killer Bee, was attacked and abducted. The perpetrators of such attack were once again Kisame, though his accomplice was an IWA ninja named Deidara. This time, the Reikage glared at Kuratsuchi. And what do you expect us to do? Rescue them? Help you deliver swift retribution to the Akatsuki? Kuratsuchi began, earning a scowl from the Reikage. Jinchuriki are the responsibility of the village they belong to. To ask other villages to help your problems is really embarrassing. If that's the case, you didn't do a good job keeping yours, Jiraiya intervened, shooting a sharp look at Kuratsuchi. Not only both of your Jinchuriki were abducted with you being none the wiser, but when we asked for your help in order to secure the Jinchuriki of the 4 Tails, Rashi, we got no response. And how could we know you were honest, and it wasn't some sort of trap? Kuratsuchi asked. Konoha and IWA aren't allies. We have no responsibility towards you people. What about your allies Suna and Kiri? Didn't you ask them for help? Kiri has been active in the operation to gather the Jinchuriki, as so was Suna, Mei intervened. Though I'm afraid that our results haven't been that good. Kuratsuchi snorted. So much for your alliance. At least we've been trying to do something. Raza exploded, hastily standing up from his chair as well. Kuratsuchi's bodyguards quickly leaped and jumped into the table, standing protectively in front of their Kage. This prompted the rest of the bodyguards to leap into action as well, jumping in front of their respective Kages, some with their weapons drawn, and others with their hands already interlocked for hand seals. Enough! Mifune shouted. There won't be any fighting as long as you are our guests. Now please sit down and return to your seats. The ninja didn't listen to Mifune and remained there. But after a few seconds, the Kage told their respective bodyguards to stand down and return to their benches. Now that's better, Mifune said, before turning at Raza. Now, Kazekage-sama, I believe there was something you wanted to say. Yes. My youngest son is a Jinchuriki. He became one before he was even born by my order, the Kazekage began. We used to keep our tailed beast sealed inside a teapot, but Suna was going through hard times, and I thought that a Jinchuriki would help us recover. For quite some time, I treated Gaara as nothing but a weapon, and it wasn't until I nearly lost him when I realized how awful of a father I've been. And from what I could learn, other Jinchuriki got similar treatments too. Expected to be loyal to the village and die for it, but were given little incentive to stay loyal. Hence why many of them abandoned their homes and became vagrants. This made Akatsuki's job all the easier. Don't lump Kumo with your lot, Kazekage, the Reikage growled. Kumo has always treated their Jinchuriki with the same respect as any other of our ninjas. In all of Kumo's history, not single Jinchuriki has ever thought about betraying the village. Let me repeat my question, what do you expect us to do? Kuratsuchi asked. IWA doesn't have any responsibility towards -IT does. The Reikage roared, as he brought his fist down the table, opening a hole on it. Even if the bodyguards didn't leap into action, they did get ready in case a fight broke out. Didn't you hear about the part that one of your ninjas kidnapped my brother? Deidara is a missing nin. Whatever he did, he wasn't acting in Iwa's name, Kuratsuchi defensively said. Akatsuki is composed of missing nin from all of your villages, the Reikage said, pointing an accusatory finger at the other Kages. And not just that, but I know that some of you hired their services. Raza seemed to sigh, and cast his gaze down. Kuratsuchi, however, frowned at the larger man. Hey, I have no idea of what are you talking about, Kuratsuchi said. So you better stop making those dash, you don't? Maybe you should ask your grandfather, the Reikage interrupted. He then turned at the Mizukage. And we also know that your predecessor, Yagura, was being manipulated by Akatsuki as well. Then, he looked at Jiraiya. And a Konoha ninja is one of the organization's leaders. All of you have a responsibility regarding Akatsuki. You created this monster that took my brother away, the Reikage roared. Konoha has been dealing with the Akatsuki threat for years, Reikage, Jiraiya told him, sounding exasperated. We even helped you deal with Obito and his pet Nine Tails when they attacked one of your outposts and a town of the Land of Lightning. Yet, despite the fact that your ninjas saw with their own eyes the level of threat Akatsuki possess, you still refused to do anything other than hiding your brother away. Don't go boasting about what your village has done, Hokage. What have you accomplished? The Reikage fired back, his rage not only unabated, but growing. Akatsuki possessed 7.5 of the tailed beasts. I'd say you've been doing a pretty lousy job, if the results are anything to go by. The Akatsuki threat is too big for a single village to handle, Mei interceded. Just like how Akatsuki had our previous Mizukage under their control, who can't say that something similar happened in your villages? Are you implying that my grandpa was also in their grasp? Kuratsuchi asked, outraged. Maybe he is old, but he is no senile fool. Not necessarily that. This time, it was Raza who spoke. After my son was abducted by the Akatsuki, I ordered my ANBU to search the village for spies. Turn out they found many moles among our ranks working for Akatsuki. And not just low-ranked mooks, but actual jonin with an impeccable record that I would have pegged as completely loyal to the village and trust them blindly. The hand of Akatsuki is big and their reach is long. Ask this yourself, Reikage. How did Akatsuki find where your brother was being hidden so quickly and easily, if they didn't have spies among your ninja? The Reikage gritted his teeth and snarled in anger. He wanted to answer to that so badly, but was unable to. What the Kazekage said made too much sense to dismiss like that. The Reikage always prided in his village's strength, but maybe that pride blinded him to threats he had considered beneath him. To answer your previous question, Reikage, Konoha has eliminated several Akatsuki members, Jiraiya began. Sasori of the Red Sands was killed by a squad composed of both Konoha and Suna ninjas after the Kazekage's son's kidnapping. Haiden and Kakuzu were defeated while we helped the Takigakure ninjas reclaim their village, Kakuzu being killed by the very Jinchuriki he was trying to abduct, while we managed to neutralize and capture Haiden. And lastly, Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki, died while trying to capture the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, and his partner, Konan, surrendered to Konoha shortly afterwards. Not that it mattered, given the amount of tailed beasts the Akatsuki had gathered, the Reikage growled. 7.5 tailed beasts in exchange of a few members is quite the trade-off. If I'm allowed to give my opinion, I believe there are some pieces of information that are missing, Mifune began, drawing the attention of the 5 Kages. Akatsuki seems to be collecting the tailed beasts. But what we must ask ourselves is, for what purpose? The beasts have to be the means to their endgame. It isn't obvious. They want the beasts to rule supreme over the elemental nations, the Reikage said. If that was the case, they would have launched an offensive already, Mei countered. 7-tailed beasts is more than enough to put a whole country to its knees. The Reikage is right, Jiraiya said, much to the other's surprise. However, the sheer scope of their plans is something that escapes him. Enlighten us, then, Kuratsuchi said. I'm sure there's something you're hiding from us, Hokage. There is. The Mizukage and the Kazekage know an abridged version, but this is the whole story. Some time ago, we had a mostly odd mission request to escort a priestess to the land of Tea. Said priestess specifically requested Hinata Hyuga to be part of the squad assigned to her, Jiraiya began. Of course, I already knew that there was something more going on involving her. Jiraiya told the others about their encounter with the Moon Acolytes, and everything they learned from them, the Sage of the Six Paths and his brother, the Ten Tails, and how it was split into the nine-tailed beasts, the Rinnegan and the Tensegan, how the Akatsuki leader possessed the former, while Hinata and Hanabi awakened the latter. And lastly, Akatsuki's plan of reforming the Ten Tails and use its power to conquer the world in the name of peace. Wait a minute, Kuratsuchi said, holding a hand. The leader of Akatsuki had the Rinnegan. The same leader you said died while trying to invade your village. What happened to the Rinnegan? Unfortunately, one of the Rinnegan was recovered by the Akatsuki, Jiraiya answered. And the other, the Raikage asked, narrowing his eyes at him. Jiraiya took a few seconds to answer. The second Rinnegan is in our possession. Currently, one of our ninjas is wielding it. Jiraiya could feel how his fellow Kage's expressions darkened. While Ei and Kuratsuchi were the most obvious, not even Mei and Raza were able to stop some worry to manifest through their faces. And what gives you the right to claim that power as your own, Konoha? The Raikage bellowed. Spoils of war, that's what, Jiraiya fired back. A man widening those eyes attacked our village. That eye are the just retribution taken from a defeated enemy. I believe we're losing sight of what this summit is meant to accomplish, which is the destruction of the Akatsuki threat, Mifune intervened. Given that the Land of Iron is a neutral nation and has no stakes in the affair of ninjas, allow me to give my opinion. I think we already established that their threat has grown too big for a single village to tackle. Konoha, Suna and Kiri are coordinating their efforts, but that wasn't enough if the results are to be believed. However, if all 5 great villages join their forces for real, we may have a real chance at stopping them for good. You want us to join forces with them? Kuratsuchi asked, a little disgusted. Yes, but not just a mere alliance. Why not all 5 great villages pour their ninjas and their resources into a single, massive army? Mifune suggested. A grand army would be strong enough to face all the power Akatsuki had gathered. I agree with the idea, Jiraiya was quick to say. This is an international emergency, and drastic measures need to be taken. Suna shall stand with this alliance as well, Raza added. And so will Kiri. Between the 5 of us, we will make Akatsuki pay for their crimes against us, Mei said as well. The Raikage let out a sigh. I don't like the idea of allying with you people. But something tells me that refusing to do this is a huge mistake. My mistakes cost my brother and Yujito their lives, so in their memory, I shall do the right thing. Listen, I got the hat not even a month ago, and I had a shitload of detractors who said I'm too young for the position, Kuratsuchi continued. And if my first big act as Tsuchikage is to surrender my entire village to foreign powers, I'll be proving them right. Do you prefer to be remembered as the last Tsuchikage instead? Mei sharply asked. The one who let her pride cloud her reason, and thus allowed Akatsuki to crush her village. Kuratsuchi snarled at her cousin, trying to come up with a comeback, but finding herself unable to. All right. If you want to join forces, guess I have no choice but to comply. But my village won't give up its sovereignty. Of course, Tsuchikage-sama. This is just a temporal measure until this threat persists, Mifune said, pleased to make some progress. Now, we need to establish a chain of command. This grand army must be under the control of a supreme commander. I believe that one of you should fit that position. The question is, who is the most fitting candidate for this position? A deafening silence followed the samurai's question, as all the Kages eyed each other. Orochimaru's lair, undisclosed location. Orochimaru frowned as he read the latest report his agents had brought him. Kabuto's sudden disappearance had him a bit worried for the past couple weeks. Kabuto was Orochimaru's right-hand man not because he possessed any kind of bloodline limit or other sort of overwhelming power. No, he already had Kimimaro and similar reasons to fulfill that role. Among others, even if Kabuto was indeed a very strong ninja. No, the reason was that Kabuto was a competent and dependable ninja whom one could trust to carry any mission, and also because his loyalty towards his master was unshakable. Others in the same situation might think that Kabuto had abandoned Orochimaru, but the Sannin knew better. He knew something had happened to the silver-haired medic Nin. Maybe he found something about that rat Danzo and thus he ordered his death. Orochimaru wondered. Despite their alliance, Orochimaru knew better than trust Danzo. The only reason he continued to help the old war hawk was because he still had spies on the village that could be valuable. The snake Sannin thought that his patience had been rewarded when pain fell to Konoha, and they harvested his eyes. Danzo would then step in and steal the eyes for Orochimaru. Of course, Orochimaru didn't trust that Danzo would honor his side of the deal, so he had several contingencies in place for when the inevitable betrayal arrived. Unfortunately, while Orochimaru was right in not trusting Danzo, it wasn't for the right reasons. Who could have guessed that Danzo was secretly under Obito's control? Orochimaru had to admit that he had underestimated the young Uchiha. His plans to acquire the Rinnegan had been ruined, and now he had to start from square one. No, Danzo had no reason to do this. And his agents are like headless chickens now that he's dead. Perhaps Akatsuki? Orochimaru wondered. Given that Obito could have used Danzo to spy on him, he must have known something. At this stage they must know about my betrayal. Is this their doing? I wasn't expecting them to hunt me so soon. Orochimaru's ramblings were answered in the form of a massive explosion coming from above, rocking the entire hideout, and causing large chunks of concrete and metal to fall down. The Sannin expertly dodged the falling pieces of debris, as sunlight poured from the now large hole that had been opened in the roof of his lair. And through that hole, he could see Deidara flying above him on top of a giant clay bird. "Oi there, Orochimaru," Deidara said, as he fed his hand-mouths some explosive clays. "I hope you don't mind if I do some remodeling on this place. It could use some of my art." Deidara cast his hands forward, and his mouth released a swarm of explosive clay bees that flew at the pale-skinned man as fast as if they were bullets. Orochimaru expertly dodged them as he moved around the place, using the pieces of fallen debris as temporal cover from the rain of projectiles, which left a trail of blasts behind. The Sannin almost reached a hidden door that would lead to an escape tunnel, when said door opened on its own, and a torrent of water poured in, forcing the Konoha missing Nin to fall back once again. As the water started to flood the zone, Kisame casually emerged from the secret door, his clothes soaked, but otherwise unperturbed. "You know, Orochimaru-san, you've missed the past few Akatsuki meetings," Kisame nonchalantly began, as he casually walked towards him, Samahata resting on his shoulder. "Not to mention the attack on Konoha. We were kind of worried for you, so we decided to see if you were okay." "How touching of you," Orochimaru replied in the same mocking tone. "And now that you see that I'm fine, you'll say something about how your job is to change that for the worse, right?" "I see you're not in the mood for talking," Kisame said, as he swung Samahata, and his lips formed a bloodthirsty grin. "Fine by me." In less than a second, Kisame closed the distance between himself and Orochimaru, and brought his sword down on the Sannin. However, Orochimaru had activated his Sharingan, and thanks to his enhanced reflexes, he was able to jump backwards just in time. Not that Kisame was going to give up his prey so quickly. "Your Sharingan will be of little help against me, Orochimaru-san," Kisame mocked. "Then how about this? Sword of Kusanagi." A snake emerged from Orochimaru's mouth, which in turn regurgitated his legendary blade, which he expertly caught just in time to parry another blow from Kisame. "Do you expect to counter my Samahata with that little letter opener?" Kisame's mockery continued, as he delivered more brutal swings. "It's not a matter of size, but how do you use it?" Orochimaru replied, tried to counterattack, but Kisame was proving to be the better swordsman. Sometimes a smaller tool can do a better job than a bigger one. Then, despite the fact that Kisame was pushing Orochimaru back, the shark ninja jumped backwards, much to Orochimaru's surprise. He was quick to remember that Kisame wasn't his only opponent. Looking down, he saw something floating around him. Boom! Deidara yelled as he made a hand seal. Orochimaru was engulfed by a chain of explosions, raising huge splashes of water and clouds of steam. Kisame and Deidara waited expectantly for the droplets of water in the air and the clouds of vapor would dissipate to see if the Sannin was death, but they doubted such a basic attack would have brought Orochimaru down. Which was confirmed the next second. Would release, deep forest emergence. The lair started to shake as multiple green wooden vines emerged from below the water around them. Deidara quickly commanded his clay bird to rise higher in the air in order to avoid the attack, while Kisame savagely cut the vines growing around him with wide swings from Samahata. The vines quickly rotted the moment the living blade touched them. So, you managed to acquire wood release, Kisame said, as he nonchalantly cut the growing vines down. Samahata can still absorb the chakra of any trees you summon. Absorb this. Orochimaru said, leaping into the air, as he made several hand seals. Lava release, burning catastrophe. Orochimaru's cheeks puffed, before releasing a stream of lava in a wide cone, large enough to engulf Kisame. The shark ninja, however, wasn't fazed, and started to make hand seals of his own. Do you forget what I specialize in? Kisame replied mockingly. Water release, water shark bullet. The water around Kisame started to gather around him in the form of a liquid tornado, before lunging at the incoming lava. The water tornado took the shape of a shark, which chomped the molten rock, instantly cooling it off and reducing it to bits. While Orochimaru was engaging Kisame, Deidara decided it was his chance to strike, and took a dive at the Sannin as he prepared another cluster of explosives to drop. Disappear already! Deidara shouted, as he dropped his clay explosives around the Sannin. However, Orochimaru wasn't going to let the IWA ninja catch him off guard twice. Dance of the Larch. Suddenly, multiple bone spikes grew all around Orochimaru's body, many of them firing into multiple directions. Deidara's explosives were caught by these unorthodox projectiles, which carried enough momentum to push them away. However, Orochimaru didn't stop there, and continued firing bone missiles at Deidara's bird, which due to its size was unable to dodge more than half of them, shredding the artificial creature to shreds and forcing the IWA ninja back into the ground. I'm tired of you attacking me from above like a coward, Orochimaru hissed. That moment, Kisame charged at him once again, ready to deliver his most brutal swing. When Orochimaru saw it, it was too late to dodge, so he had to parry the blow with a combination of the sword of Kusanagi and his dead bone pulse bloodline limit. Even if he was able to do it, the blow was so powerful it pushed him backwards and grievously damaged his arms. Wood release, lava release, bone manipulation. You hid quite a lot of secrets from the rest of US, didn't you, Orochimaru-san? Kisame asked, as he pushed against the Sannin. Please. As if I was the only person in that organization hiding secrets, Orochimaru said, grinning for the first time. Suddenly, a small snake emerged from under the Konoha missing Nin's clothes, and fast as lightning, bit Kisame in his dominant arm, forcing him to drop Samahata. Orochimaru quickly took advantage of this, and delivered a brutal kick into the blue man's chest, which tossed him back skidding through the water. Let's see what you can do without your precious sword as a crutch. Orochimaru boasted, as his hands weaved hand seals as fast as they could. Water release. Water Dragon Jutsu. Lightning release, wave of inspiration. The water around them gathered and took the form of a massive serpentine dragon, which quickly lunged at Kisame. Said dragon was then infused with lightning chakra, crackling with electricity. However, Orochimaru was going to learn that thinking that Kisame was nothing without his sword was a bad idea. Impressive. A jutsu worthy of this counter. Kisame said, making hand seals of his own. Water release, great water shark bullet. The shark and the electrified dragon clashed, however, instead of the usual struggle of two similarly powered jutsu colliding. Kisame's water shark swallowed the electrified dragon whole. The shark then doubled its size and gained a cloak of electricity before continuing its way towards Orochimaru. Too surprised to see how easily his combo had been countered, Orochimaru was unable to dodge the incoming attack, resulting in a massive blast of electrified water. "Did you get him?" Deidara asked, as he landed beside Kisame. "There's no way he could have survived that." "You're right, there's no way I could have survived that," Orochimaru's voice said, as the clouds of steam started to dissipate. "At least, not without my shed skin replacement. Truly a magnificent jutsu, Kisame. You're worthy of the title and reputation you carry. I'll be able to add 'the man who killed Orochimaru' to my already excellent resume," Kisame said, grinning at Orochimaru. "Somehow, I find that unlikely." "Not after I use this jutsu with you too," Orochimaru said, as he started to make hand seals. Summoning jutsu, impure world resurrection. The moment he formed the last hand seal, two wooden coffins emerged in front of him. Kisame's grin vanished from his face. Land of Iron. When Mifune asked one of the Kages to take a step and become the supreme commander of the Alliance army, he was expecting all five of them to jump and claim the position, as they yelled each time louder over each other. Mifune was aware over the power struggle that could go on inside ninja villages, and given that this situation involved 5 people from different countries, the samurai leader expected a bloodbath. Instead, he got nothing but silence, and the Kages awkwardly staring at each other. Guess they also had predicted the same thing Mifune had imagined. Or maybe they were expecting the others to talk first in order to prepare an answer. Mifune was tempted to make a suggestion, but there were 2 problems with that. 1, as the leader of a neutral nation, he wanted to stay neutral and not take any sides. Plus, he believed that, with the exception of Kuratsuchi, who was too young and inexperienced as a Kage, any of the other 4 would make a fine supreme commander. And 2, if the 5 Kages couldn't reach an agreement on this topic, then there was no way they would be able to coordinate an army of such magnitude, and Akatsuki would have won already. Still, that didn't mean he couldn't give them a little push. "Nobody?" he asked. "None of you wants to volunteer for the task? Or at the very least, nominate somebody else for the position?" This had the intended effect, as Mei Terumi cleared her throat before she spoke. "I'd like to nominate Hokage-dan for the position of Supreme Commander," Mei began. "As we've been discussing here, Konoha and its Hokage have led the fight against the Akatsuki, and even took down some of their members. I can't think of anybody else better suited for such task." Jiraiya nodded at Mei in gratitude. However, the Toad Sannin's nomination wasn't going to pass unchallenged. "Of course you'll support him," the Raikage growled. "Everybody knows how he helped you snatch that hat from its previous owner. What did you surrender to Konoha in order to carry your coup? Or is being Jiraiya's loyal lapdog enough?" "Who are you calling a lapdog?" Zabuza snarled as his hand reached his sword, while taking a step forward. The Raikage's bodyguards did the same. Mei raised a hand. "Stand down, sweetie, I can take care of this," Mei said, before locking eyes with the Raikage. "I'd advise you to measure your words, especially regarding a village you're no part of nor have any idea about its history or culture. And, even if supposing that what you said is true and I'm merely the Hokage's servant, how does it invalidate anything I said?" "I agree with the Mizukage," Raza interjected before the Raikage could reply. "Jiraiya and I rarely saw each other eye to eye. But what the Mizukage said is undeniable. They did more for the Jinchuriki as a whole than most of the villages those Jinchuriki hailed from. And speaking of which, Konoha so far is the only village left with Jinchuriki among its ranks. That should be a deciding factor as well." Mifune nodded. "A compelling argument from both the Mizukage and the Kazekage. And, if I assume that Hokage Dano accepts this position, that would make him the supreme commander of the alliance with 3 votes out of 5. I'm not that eager to have more responsibility piled on my shoulders, but I know the stakes are too big to reject them, Jiraiya said. Still, before we can officially hand Hokage Dano the leadership of this army, I believe that all of us should reach an agreement, for the sake of cooperation, Mifune added, before looking at the Raikage. Raikage Dano, do you have any reason to believe that the Hokage may be ill-suited for the position, or that there's a better candidate? A growled and glared at Jiraiya, but in the end, he sighed in defeat. I'm afraid not. I may not like Jiraiya, and I would prefer the alliance to be under my leadership. However, I allowed Kumo's 2 Jinchuriki to be snatched by the Akatsuki, while Konoha managed to keep theirs. For the sake of crushing Akatsuki, I'll work under Jiraiya, as long as he doesn't give me a reason not to do so. Excellent, Mifune said, happy with the progress they were making. Now only one loose end remained. He looked at Kuratsuchi, and was about to ask her the same question, but he saw she was talking to one of her bodyguards, the woman named Suzumabachi, who was whispering something into the Tsuchikage's ear. Kuratsuchi nodded, and mouthed a "thank you" to her bodyguard, who returned to her position. What about you, Tsuchikage Dano? Do you agree with the Hokage as the supreme commander? Before I do, I'd like to ask him something, Kuratsuchi said, sounding confident. Word has reached to my ears that the reason Akatsuki had such an easy time capturing so many Jinchuriki is because they had help from Konoha. And not from some sort of lowly chunin, no. The source of those leaks was no other than Danzo Shimura, who, according to our files, is a member of Konoha's Council of Elders. Hokage, if you're given command of such a huge army, how can we know that you won't allow Akatsuki to plant spies and saboteurs? Imagine if Akatsuki knew beforehand about all our troop movements and operations beforehand. It would be a catastrophe. Mifune sighed wearily. Even if Kuratsuchi did raise very good points, it wouldn't help if all they accomplished was inaction and pointless arguments. I believe you're right, Jiraiya answered. However, you should know that Danzo has already been dealt with, and all his minions and collaborators have been either killed or captured. Plus, like the Kazekage and the Mizukage said, Akatsuki has spies in every village, including yours. The difference is that we've been actively trying to safekeep the Jinchuriki, while your village didn't. Tsuchikage Dano, even if your concerns regarding Hokage Dano and Konoha are valid, I'm afraid we can't just disqualify him for the position if another candidate isn't presented, Mifune intervened. Do you have any other person in mind? Kuratsuchi opened her mouth to speak, but no words came from them. She realized that she didn't like any of the other Kages as candidates either. She hated Mei for how she had used Konoha to become Mizukage, on top of the previous bad blood. There's no way she'd support Raza, the Kage of the weakest great village. She thought the Raikage was too anger-prone and emotional. And there's no way the others would support her, being so young and inexperienced as a Kage. In the end, she was forced to relent. No, I don't have, she finally conceded with a sigh. The Hokage has Iwa's support as well. Mifune nodded and smiled. In that case, we have a consensus. Hokage Dano will be the supreme commander of the very first army of the Ninja Alliance. Now, let's discuss how endearing. The 5 great villages, joining forces against a common enemy, a new voice said. Who said that? The Raikage roared, looking around. Darui's visible eye widened, as a realization dawned upon him. Wait, I already heard this voice before, this is Tsunade said, knowing who was speaking. Mifune and his 2 bodyguards jumped back as a spiraling vortex formed behind them. The rest of the Kage's bodyguards jumped forward in front of their leaders, weapons drawn, and ready to strike. From the vortex, Obito Uchiha emerged. His face was unmasked, letting everybody see the Rinnegan in his left socket. Hello there, members of the 5 Kage, Obito nonchalantly said. His tone was so jovial, it was an obvious provocation. Given that you've gathered under a single room, I decided to take this unique chance to discuss a very important matter with you 5. For a few moments, silence reigned supreme as the 5 Kages, their bodyguards, and the samurai stared at the daring Akatsuki member. all sporting various expressions, ranged from angry, to shocked, to surprised, to even scared. The silence lasted until one ninja decided to make a move. You, Darui said, as he unsheathed his cleaver, and dashed towards Obito, fast as lightning. Darui, wait! C called out, trying to reach him. Darui delivered a horizontal slash at the Akatsuki with his electricity-imbued cleaver, but much to his surprise and frustration, the attack phased through Obito as if he was made of air. His building momentum also caused the Kyumo Jonin to stumble forward, phasing through Obito as well. He managed to regain balance just before slamming against the opposing wall. As I said just a second ago, an irritated Obito said. I didn't came here to fight, but to talk. We have nothing to talk with you about. Tsunade yelled, both fists clenched. She felt Jiraiya's hand on her shoulder. While I agree with the general sentiment, Haim, the Toad Sage began. I believe it's unwise to stop an enemy from sharing information with us. Jiraiya's eyes locked into Obito's. What do you want to tell us, Uchiha? You're talking with the Supreme Commander of the Ninja Allied Forces. Obito's lips curved into a smile. Good. I'm going to tell you about Akatsuki, and our goal. We do know your goal. You plan to revive the 10 Tails. Raza angrily shouted. Obito's smile widened. So, all of you know about it. Excellent, that will save me explain you what is it. And what do you pretend to do with such a monster, Uchiha? Mei asked. Now you're asking the important questions, Obito said, pleased. Madara Uchiha's secret hideout. Many years ago for many days, Obito had been sitting in front of the cocoon that would hopefully bring Rin back to life stronger than ever. He didn't eat, he didn't drink, he didn't even move. He merely watched. He was unaware of how much time he spent there, given that he had no way to measure the days in a place where the sun didn't shine. Hey, you! Obito stood up and turned around, and saw Zetsu, the original one, not a clone, standing in front of him. Madara-sama wants to speak with you. Obito silently nodded, and followed the artificial human through the hallways of the underground lair, until they reached a chamber Obito had never seen during his stay there. The chamber had a couple shelves with some books and scrolls each, a table with some books on it, and a couple chairs. It appeared to be some sort of improvised library. Hey boss, here's the kid, as you requested, the creature said. Madara, who was taking a look at one of his books, closed it, and nodded at his servant. Thank you. Leave us alone, please, the elderly Uchiha commanded. White Zetsu nodded, and left. Despite the lack of doors, Madara knew that none of his minions would try to defy his will. You know, the Zetsu have told me what you've been doing these past days, Madara began. Just because you stay close to the cocoon it won't make the girl to come out faster. Like I told you, the process may take years. Sorry, Obito said almost in a whisper. So, you called me? Yes. I think it's about time you begin to fulfill your side of our deal, and become my agent, Madara explained. Alright. What is my first mission? Obito asked, his lack of enthusiasm more than evident. Madara shook his head. There will be time for that. In any other time, blind obedience is all what I would have wanted. But in the end, even blind obedience is unreliable. That's why, before we begin my plan, I need you to understand why we're doing this. I need you to be completely committed to my cause. I already told you that I was willing to do what you say, Obito began, looking irritated. Does my word hold so little value to you? Yes, was Madara's blunt answer, taking Obito aback. And soon you'll see why I think that way. Tell me, Obito, do you have any family? I don't mean the Uchiha clan, but direct family. Brothers or sisters? I'm an only son, Obito replied. Parents? Obito shook his head. They both died on a mission when I was a toddler. So, no immediate family. I guess that your teammates and sensei are the closest thing you have to a family, excluding the rest of the Uchiha clan? Madara asked. Yeah, pretty much. The other Uchiha weren't exactly very fond of me, Obito said, glancing at the ground below. I see. One may call that unfortunate, Madara said. You see, I used to have 5 younger brothers. 4 of them died even before I came of age. Whoa! Obito gasped in shock. I'm sorry to hear that. But at least one of your brothers survived. Madara shook his head. While said brother went to live longer than the others, he joined them in death as well. Killed by Tobirama Senju during our last clash against his and Hashirama's clan, before we ended the hostilities and founded Konoha. I'm sorry to hear that, Obito repeated, as he looked around while awkwardly rubbing his arm. Not to sound rude, but you didn't call me just to tell me your life, don't you? Knowing the details of my life is important for our cause. Like I said before, you need to understand why we're doing this, and to do so, you need to know the same things I do know now, Madara explained. Oh, sorry, then continue. Given that you're an Uchiha, you're aware of our history with the Senju clan, Madara continued. Nobody knew when our feud began, it simply existed, and we didn't question it. Uchiha fought Senju to avenge our fallen brethren. And then the Senju struck back to avenge their own. Eventually, after the battle where my brother died, Hashirama offered us a chance to end the hostilities and form together a ninja village where we could live in peace. And you said yes, Obito assumed. No. Not at first, at least, Madara said, much to the young Uchiha's surprise. I couldn't agree with such suggestion, even if it was what I desired. Or what I think I desired. Letting go of the past like that would mean spitting on the sacrifice of all the Uchiha who died fighting Senju. My brother among them. They died so we could have a chance at crushing them for good. But that's stupid. Obito blurted. Upon seeing Madara's unamused stare, Obito covered his mouth with his hand and tried to hastily apologize. Well, not stupid, it's just no, go on. Please, explain me why it's stupid, Madara asked. He sounded like he genuinely wanted to know the boy's opinion. Well, Obito began, as he tried to find the best way to word his ideas, as he nervously rubbed his arm. While it's true that all the Uchiha dead at the hand of the Senju was a tragedy, continuing the hostilities wouldn't have been of any help, and it would only resulted in more pointless deaths for both sides. You said that the Uchiha and the Senju had been fighting for generations, and neither clan was even close to destroy the other. By ceasing the hostilities, at least you ensure the next generation of Uchiha wouldn't have to go through the same horrors you did. Madara rested his chin under his hand, as he weighed down Obito's words. Obito, meanwhile, stared nervously at the elder Uchiha, awaiting for his verdict. Yes, that's a very good argument, he finally said. One many of my clansmen shared. They were tired of warring, and wanted to create a better future for their children. Even if that means joining forces with our hated enemies. Obito smiled, and sighed in relief, knowing he had passed what he believed was a hidden test. So, hearing my clansman's plea, I decided to accept Hashirama's offer. The Uchiha and the Senju ended their legendary feud, and we joined forces to form Konohagakure, the very first of the ninja villages, Madara told Obito. News of these events spread like wildfire, and soon many clans that made the Land of Fire its home asked to join us. The Sarutobi was the first of such clans, followed by the Shimura, whom they had a feud with. Next came the Hyuga and the Aburame, and later the Yamanaka, Akimichi, and Nara, whom already had a history of working together. The village grew as more clans joined us, and thus, another problem was presented. When it was just the Senju and us, both Hashirama and I ruled over our respective clans like we did in the past. But now, it was time to decide a new leader who would reign supreme over the village. Hashirama wanted that person to be me, but in the end, the villagers chose him by an overwhelming majority. Even my fellow clansmen preferred Hashirama to me. Wow! Were you that bad of a leader? Obito asked, before once again realized of what he said, and clamping his hand over his mouth. Sorry. I didn't mean to dash. If Madara took offense to Obito's comment, he didn't show it. You see, the news of Konoha's birth traveled well beyond the Land of Fire's borders, and other clans started to form villages as well. It was then when I realized the flaw of Hashirama's dream. While we had effectively put an end to the warring states period and ushered an era of peace, it wasn't bound to last. Soon, the ninja villages would start to wage wars against each other, and the scale of those wars would dwarf those that came before. Hashirama wanted to establish alliances and treaties with other villages, but I knew such idea wouldn't work, and I advocated to subjugate them before they could be a threat. Rather than just the Land of Fire, Konoha should be the only military power of the entire elemental nations, which would keep peace and stability. Neither Hashirama nor the rest of the villagers supported my idea, and after a heated discussion with Hashirama, I realized that there wasn't a place for me anymore in that village. Since I had no children, I passed the clan leadership to Izuna's oldest son, and left the village. Obito more or less knew that, since he had to study it in history class in the academy. What he didn't know, however, was what Madara did before he returned to fight Hashirama one last time. And now, he could hear it from the man himself. And what did you do then? Obito asked, instinctively leaning forward. I traveled. Trying to find myself, as it's usually said. I realized that I never felt at home at Konoha, so maybe I could find a place like that, Madara told him. The Uchiha history was shrouded in mystery due to lack of written records, so I decided that I could unearth some of those mysteries. As I traveled, I found many places that the Uchiha used as temporal homes before moving out. Thanks to my search, I found out that neither the Uchiha nor the Senju are natives to this land. They first appeared in a faraway land called the Land of the Ancestors, once a powerful empire, now an uninhabited ruin. And in one of those places, inspecting a ruined fortress that had been used by the Uchiha, I found this, Madara said, showing Obito the book he was holding. The Journal of Indra Otsutsuki, the very first ninja to awaken a Sharingan. Indra Otsutsuki? I never heard of that name, Obito said, scratching his head. I don't blame you, neither did I, Madara admitted. Tell me, Obito, what do you know about the Sage of the Six Paths? He's supposed to be the one who invented ninjutsu. A very powerful man, Obito said, before scowling a little. What has that myth have to do with anything? Oh, plenty. Apparently, this Indra was the sage's eldest son, Madara casually said. Say what? Obito asked in disbelief. Come on, there's no way that book is telling the truth. This seemed to amuse Madara, whose withered lips formed a smile. Yes, my reaction was the same. I've never been the one to believe in something without evidence. That's why I decided to do some research of my own to see if the book conformed to reality. And my findings were troubling to say the least. You have proof that the Sage of the Six Paths truly existed? Obito asked, excited. Not exactly. I have proof that many of the things written on that book did indeed happen, Madara replied, before handing Obito the book. Now, you must read this book. Every page, every paragraph, every word, drink them as if they were a glass of water. Obito opened the book and glanced at a random page. He scowled. Wait, this is nothing but gibberish. How I'm supposed to read it? Use your Sharingan, Madara laconically instructed. After activating his remaining Dojutsu, suddenly everything became clear. Hey, I can read it now. Of course you can. Those symbols are a special code that can only be deciphered with the Sharingan. While anybody with a Sharingan can read it, unfortunately the knowledge on how to write it was lost centuries ago. Now, enough talking. Read that book. We won't talk again until you finish it. And thus, Obito read Indra's journal. While the book showed its age, the cover was consumed, the pages were yellowish and the writing half faded, it was still in a pretty good shape, and completely legible, quite the achievement for something that was almost a millennia old. Despite the archaic wording, Indra's history was a fascinating tale. Apparently, the sage of the six paths, named Hagoromo, had a brother named Hamura, and the two of them were the sons of a very powerful woman named Kagaya, who was said to come from beyond the stars. Kagaya used her vast power to rule the land, until her sons decided to put an end to her reign. Kagaya then transformed into an horrifying monster called the Ten Tails, which was defeated when Hagoromo drained it of its chakra and sealed it inside his body. Then the two of them used a powerful jutsu to seal the Ten Tails' empty husk inside the moon, creating the moon in the process. After that, the younger brother went to the moon in order to watch over the Ten Tails' body, while Hagoromo stayed on Earth in order to preach peace. Hagoromo married and had two sons, Indra and Azura, whom later Obito would learn he would be the ancestor of all Senju and Uzumaki, whom he trained to carry on his legacy. As Hagoromo's life reached its end, the sage realized he had to name one of his two sons as his heir, in order to determine which one was the most suitable to take his mantle. Hagoromo asked the sons about the best way to bring peace to the world. Indra advocated for a powerful individual or small group of people to rule over the rest, creating laws that ensured the safety of all, and punished those who broke them. Azura advocated for love and mutual understanding to be paramount for any peace that was bound to last. Hagoromo chose his youngest son over the oldest. Indra, outraged, attacked Azura, ready to kill him, or at the very least, force him to give back what Indra thought was his birthright, but was unable to beat him, and left. Indra would later learn that, shortly before his death, Hagoromo released the Ten Tails chakra stored inside his body, split it into 9 beings, and gave them their own mind. That's how the 9-tailed beasts were born. After Indra's loss to Azura, the book merely described what Indra did after that. He met a woman whom he married and had 2 kids as well, both of them whom inherited the Sharingan, and trained them as ninjas. Both Indra and his descendants used their power to work as mercenaries and assassins, taking part in many battles and wars, some of them against Azura and his family. Eventually, Indra died of old age. However, in the very last page he wrote he claimed that his hatred for his father and his brother would never disappear until Azura's line was eradicated and his bloodline reigned supreme over the elemental nations. Once again, Obito hadn't realized how much time had passed until he finished the book. To him it were mere hours, but in reality there were a few days. Once he was done, he returned to Madara, who was waiting for him in the library, as if he had never left the place. "I finished the book," Obito told him. "Well? What are your impressions?" Madara eagerly asked. "It's fascinating indeed. If what is says it's really true," Obito said, unable to shake off the last remnants of his skepticism. "It is true, I can assure you that," Madara insisted. "What about the conflict between Azura and Indra? What's your impression on that?" "I guess both brothers had a point," Obito asked, trying to give a non-committal answer. However, Madara's unamused glare made it clear such thing wasn't going to fly. "Though in the end, I agreed with Azura more." "Of course you did," Madara said. While he sounded disappointed, he seemed to expect that answer. "And tell me, kid, do you think Azura's way of doing things fixed anything? You yourself told me you're in the middle of a war. A third one involving ninja villages." Obito didn't say anything, he simply nodded. "I could have stopped this from happening, if they just listened to me," Madara said, shaking his head. "Anyway, now that you read that book, I can now continue with my tale. After traveling and learning about both the past of our clan and ninja history in general, I was even more confident in my convictions. Hashirama had the right idea with the ninja villages, but that was only a job half done. In order to achieve true peace, we would need to unify the elemental nations under a single village, with an absolute power as its backbone. Said power would be the tailed beasts. However, upon my return to the land of fire, I was shocked to see how much Hashirama had screwed things up. He had hunted nearly every tailed beast, but instead of keeping them for Konoha, he idiotically handed them to other villages, apparently in a vain effort to create some sort of balance of power that would ensure peace. Unsurprisingly, it ended up provoking the First Ninja War. Hashirama also had abdicated as Hokage, and passed the hat to his younger brother. Fortunately, not everything was lost. Hashirama hadn't captured the Nine Tails yet, meaning that I could put it under my control and use it to defeat him once for all. But even then, it wasn't enough to bridge the gap between us, and as a result, I died. Wait, Obito interrupted. How could you die if you're here before me? Because, fortunately, I had the means to evade death in the form of Izanagi, an Uchiha forbidden jutsu that allowed me to rewrite reality, at the cost of my Sharingan. Though, even if I had cheated death, the loss of one of my eyes was a big price to pay. With one single Sharingan I could no longer use Susanoo, my most powerful ability. However, I had a way to gain an even greater power. During the battle, I was able to bite some of Hashirama's flesh and store it within my mouth. I used that flesh to cultivate more of his cells, and combined them with my own. Not only I would gain Hashirama's power, but by combining powerful Senju and Uchiha chakra, the result is Six Paths chakra, the very same chakra the sage had. And with that chakra I could awaken the Rinnegan. And awaken it did. But it took far longer than I thought. When my eyes turned into Rinnegan, I was already an old and withered man. Still, it was something. I was able to summon the Ten Tails empty shell, the demonic statue of the outer path, and use it to generate more Hashirama's cells. By doing so, I accidentally created the beings that you see around the lair, Zetsu and his clones. The statue also keeps me alive, as long as I'm directly connected to it, Madara said, as he turned around so Obito could see better the organic cables attached to his back. You didn't tell me what was your plan. What did you plan to do after you defeated Hashirama? Obito asked. Madara's lips formed a smile again. Ah, good, you finally pay attention to the finer details. My original plan was that, once Hashirama was out of the way, I would take over Konoha by force. Then, would subjugate the other villages one by one, taking back the tailed beasts Hashirama foolishly gave them as if they were mere pets. Then, would have built a single village, with a force of 9 Jinchuriki as the backbone of said village's might. With the elemental nations united under a single government, there wouldn't be no more wars nor strife. A world where no kids should have to be sent to the battlefields and see their friends die. That last sentence seemed to especially resonate with Obito. However, over the years, especially those after I awakened the Rinnegan, I perfected my plan. 9 Jinchuriki could still cause problems, since they could fight among each other, or have their own agendas. No, there had to be a single Jinchuriki that would enforce the village's power. So far, the only person capable of completing such task would be the Sage of the Six Paths, hence a second sage needed to be created. In order to do so, the 9-tailed beasts need to be gathered and sealed inside the demonic statue. Once they're all inside, their chakra will merge into Six Paths chakra, and the demonic statue will return to its original form as the 10 tails. Lastly, I will seal the 10 tails into my body, becoming an ageless being of unmatched power. Then I shall do what the first sage should have done to begin with, use my power to usher an eternal era of peace and harmony. It's a beautiful dream indeed, Obito agreed, before gazing down. But it looks kind of impossible to reach. Kid, those who achieve greatness are those who try the impossible, and find a way to succeed, Madara said. So far, people would think that bringing somebody back from the dead it's impossible. Yet we're doing exactly that with that Rin friend of yours. Of course, Obito agreed. Then, in a more enthusiastic tone, he asked, "What can I do, Madara-sama?" Madara smiled. That determination is what he wanted to see. He then started to slowly walk, and Obito followed behind him. My time draws near. I shall undergo the same process of rebirth your friend Rin is undergoing in order to recover my former strength, Madara explained. Such process may take years. In the meantime, you need to put my plan in motion. First, go to AIM and find an Uzumaki boy named Nagato. I had the Zetsu extract my Rinnegan and secretly implant them into him for safekeeping. Convince the boy to follow our plan. Lie to him if necessary. Tell him he's the reincarnation of the Sage of the Six Paths. You can tell him about me as well, but be mindful what you choose to reveal. I believe it won't be very hard to do it, Obito confidently said. I have faith in your abilities, kid, Madara said with a nod. Obito could see they were returning to the chamber where Rin's cocoon was. Then, gather the tailed beast, and seal them inside the statue. I presume that by the time you're done, the regeneration process will be finished already. If you haven't completed your task yet, I will finish it myself. With my old power restored, it shouldn't be too hard. As they entered the chamber, they could see more Zetsu clones on top of those working on Rin's cocoon, as well the original Zetsu. Madara walked towards the ladder, and placed his hand on his non-existent right half of his body, and a black liquid-like substance started to spread around it. As it grew, it formed half a body, making the Zetsu whole, but looking as if they were the halves of two different beings clumsily put together. This is Black Zetsu, an extension of my will. He will guide you and follow your orders from now onwards, just like White Zetsu and his clones, Madara said. With a mere hand wave, the idle Zetsu clones formed another circle, and Madara placed himself in the middle. I believe that's all, Obito. From now onwards, the future we want to build rests on your shoulders. Do not fail me. I won't, Madara-sama. This world, Azura's vision, Konoha, all of them allowed Rin to die. I shall fulfill your vision and create a better world, Obito said, clenching one fist in determination. Good, Madara said with a nod, before turning at one of the clones, and nodded. Begin. Green vines emerged from the clone's midsection and crawled towards Madara as they grew. Once they reached him, they started to wrap around his body, covering him in layers upon layers of vines until the elderly Uchiha could no longer be seen. Lastly, all 8 of them formed the same chain of hand seals. Would release, majestic cocoon of divine rebirth. Just like it happened with Rin, the mass of vines not so much glowed with a green light, but that became light, growing and taking an oval shape. When the light faded, there was an identical cocoon in Madara's place, slowly pulsating like a giant heart. Just like Rin, the process has been a success, one of the Zetsu keeping the cocoon active announced. Madara is still alive, and it's slowly regenerating. For additional security, I believe we should seal this room, boss, Black Zetsu spoke for the first time. Yes, I agree, Obito said, as he walked outside the chamber. You do that while I'm out. Hey, wait, the white half said. You shouldn't go to fetch Nagato alone. You'll need us to help you. I'm not going to AIM, Obito said. I'm going to Konoha. There are a few things I need to check there before we start with the plan. Understood, boss. Try not to take too long, Black Zetsu warned him. Undisclosed location, Orochimaru's lair. Deidara and Kisame watched for a second the 2 wooden coffins Orochimaru had summoned. The 2 of them had the kanji for 2 on them, on top of the kanji of water on one and earth on the other. The coffins then opened on their own, their lids falling forward with a thud. Lastly, 2 men emerged from each coffin, a blond man in a pin-striped, high-collared, long gray kimono with a black sash wrapped around his waist, and a man which was almost entirely covered in bandages, wearing nothing but a pair of black pants. Kisame and Deidara immediately recognized the men as the second Mizukage and Tsuchikage, who looked disoriented after stepping out of the coffins. Where I am? The Tsuchikage asked. This place, the hell if I know, the Mizukage replied, looking around as well. It was then when the Kage realized who they were talking to. You. The 2 Kages tried to attack each other, but found that their bodies weren't under their control, and remained firmly in place. So, I'm stuck with you and some unseen force stops me from tearing your face from your head, the second Mizukage said as he rested his chin on his hand. Yep, This is hell. If you weren't to jump to conclusions so easily, you'll realize this isn't the afterlife, Genjutsu, the second Tsuchikage said. We can't control our bodies. And your eyes are black and your skin is cracked. This sounds like Tobarama Senju's jutsu, impure world resurrection. Exactly, Musan, Orochimaru said, making the two Kages to turn around. I summoned you with this jutsu to do my bidding. And who are you supposed to be? Genjutsu asked, scowling a little. Your master. You can call me Orochimaru, no honorifics needed, the Sannin said in a theatrical way. Now, those are the targets I want you to dispose of. Forced to turn around once again, the two Kages faced the two members of Akatsuki. They quickly noticed their headbands. An IWA ninja working side by side with a Kiri one? Mu asked. What kind of world I've been summoned to? That's Samahata. That means you're of the Seven Swordsmen. Genjutsu said, pointing at Kisame. What the hell are you doing working with IWA scum? However, Orochimaru's orders quickly kicked in, and Mu started to make hand seals, before clapping his hands together. Pulling his hands apart, he created a translucent white cube with a white glowing ball inside. Deidara paled upon seeing this, and instinctively jumped backwards. Kisame, whatever he throws at you, dodge it, the IWA missing Nin warned. Kisame, however, merely placed his sword in a defensive position. Ha! Whatever ninjutsu he throws at me, Samahata can absorb it. Kisame confidently said. Don't try, you idiot. He's going to dash, too late. Now die like the fool you are, Kiri ninja, Mu said with contempt, as he threw his hands forward. Dust release, atomic dismantling jutsu. In a second, the glowing cube flew towards Kisame, and growing large enough to engulf the confused Akatsuki member. What the? For a second, the cube glowed with a bright white light, so intense it was like looking into the sun. When the light receded, Kisame wasn't there anymore. Good job, Musan, Orochimaru praised his undead puppet. It's kind of sad how a powerful ninja like Kisame-san went away in such a quick and dull way. You asshole. Genjutsu screamed, though it wasn't clear if he was talking to Orochimaru or Mu, probably both. You destroyed Samahata. Kirigakure's greatest weapon. A treasure of untold WHOA. He was interrupted when his body started to move on his own. I'm sorry, Genjutsu-san, but I need you to get rid of the other for me, Orochimaru said. After all, we all know how much you love to kill IWA ninjas, right? Shit, this is bad. Deidara thought, as he fed his mouth hands some explosive clay, while running away. With that blue idiot dead, there's no way I can defeat that many enemies on my own. I need to escape now. As fast as he could, Deidara created a small clay bird, and with a hand seal, it grew large enough to carry a rider on its back. Not thinking it twice, Deidara jumped onto its back, and commanded it to fly away. Sorry, little bird, no running away. Genjutsu said with a maniac grin, as he pointed at the fleeing Deidara with his finger. Water gun jutsu. Genjutsu fired a single water droplet at the escaping clay bird with such force, it caused the artificial construct to blow up in 1,000 pieces, making Deidara to fall to the ground, half fascinating at how a water jutsu could damage so badly a jutsu that used earth, and half terrified knowing that this was his end, before hitting the ground with a splash. Impressive, Genjutsu-san, Orochimaru praised again. Now, finish high dash, suddenly. Something bursted from underground behind Mu, sending rocks and splashing water everywhere, distracting the two zombies and the former Akatsuki. Mu turned around too late to see a very much alive Kisame ready to strike, and with a powerful swing of Samahata, Mu's torso and left arms were separated from the rest of his body, releasing dust and ashes, instead of the blood and gore Kisame was expecting. Hey, you survived and saved Samahata. Nice. Genjutsu said, happy to see Kisame. Now try to dash. The Mizukage never finished his sentence, as with a powerful vertical strike, Kisame split the undead man in two halves, which fell to a side each. Kisame then turned at Orochimaru, who seemed oddly pleased. I knew you wouldn't go down so easily, Kisame-san, Orochimaru said, grinning. Do you take me for an idiot? Kisame asked, his tone being that of mockery, but there was a hint of anger hidden there. I know what dust release is. And I know how to counter it. Now, get ready to pay the price for underestimating me, Orochimaru. As well as the interest you've accumulated for betraying Akatsuki. Before you can do that, you need to defeat my reanimated Kages, Orochimaru pointed out. What are you talking about? Your living corpses are nothing but dash. Kisame was stunned into silence when he saw ash, dust, and paper bits swirling around the deceased Kages, reassembling their bodies back together and repairing any damage they had suffered. In a few seconds, they were completely restored. Kisame gritted his teeth and bisected them once again with two powerful swings of Samahata. But the result was still the same. Shocked, the shark ninja took a couple steps back. Kokoku. They said that, thanks to your massive chakra reserves and your chakra-draining sword, you can defeat any opponent by turning the battle into one of attrition, Orochimaru said, his smile unwavering. And I'd really like to test who's going to give in first, you or my reanimations. Don't take it personally if I bet on the latter. What kind of jutsu is this? Kisame asked, sounding more angry than afraid. Kisame, move. Deidara yelled from above. Kisame knew better than asking what was going on, and jumped back just in time. Multiple clay bombs dropped from above. Said bombs detonated before they could touch the water, raising huge splashes of water and clouds of steam. The blonde IWA ninja, atop another clay bird, swooped down on him. Kisame then jumped onto the bird's back. Let's get the hell out of here. Deidara shouted, his body shaking, as he commanded his bird to fly as fast and high as possible. The second Tsuchikage can fly. If Orochimaru sends him after us, we're fucking done. I'll prepare a jutsu if he gets close to us. Kisame said, as he started to make hand seals. Meanwhile, back on the ground, Orochimaru watched as the Kages regenerated once again from the chain of explosions, while seeing how the two Akatsuki members became smaller and smaller as they flew into the horizon. Don't you want me to go after them? Mu asked the Sannin. I can catch and kill them easily. Orochimaru shook his head. Tempting, but for the time being let them leave. I want them to deliver a message to Obito. Now, return to your slumber, I'll call you back once I need you. Orochimaru said, before making a hand seal. Sure dash, the Mizukage wanted to complain, but he was quickly silenced and shoved into a wooden coffin, before the lid closed it, fate he shared with his death-sworn enemy the Tsuchikage. Both coffins sunk into the ground. Not bad for a test run. Definitely not bad, Orochimaru said, sounding satisfied. Land of Iron. Many decades ago, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha founded Konoha. That put an end to the Warring States period and gave birth to the Ninja Villages period, Obito began. However, while well-intentioned, all what Hashirama accomplished was escalate the problem. Now we have less wars than in the past, but their scale increased 100-fold. I plan to put an end to that and bring an era of true peace. And you plan to use the tailed beasts to do that, Kuratsuchi guessed. How? Once they're all sealed inside the demonic statue, it will return to its original form, the 10 tails, Obito explained. Then, I shall seal that monster inside me, becoming its Jinchuriki, and attaining a power similar to that of the Sage of the Six Paths. With that power, I shall unify the elemental nations under a single banner, with a single ninja village that shall act as a peacekeeping force, with me as the backbone of that army. There won't be any more wars since there won't be any nations that will fight against each other. The new ninja village will establish a set of fair and just laws and shall punish those who break them. Kagaya Atsutsuki already tried that before, and it failed. You can't force peace like that. Tsunade protested. Indeed. All the clans who joined to form the ninja villages did so under their own volition, Mei interceded. If there's no agreement, your one nation is doomed to fail from the very beginning. And is the alternative any better? Obito retorted. Mankind is nothing but unruly children, who can't take care of their own without an authority figure supervising them. A millennium of history backs my claim. In the end, future generations will thank me and Akatsuki for making such a bold move to bring peace to the world. It sounds to me like you just want power without limit in order to make the world your own, Raza snarled at Obito. You can think whatever you want. Our mission already had too many setbacks. Hand me the 3 remaining Jinchuriki, or you will spend the what's little left of your life regretting what's going to happen next, Obito threatened. Wait a minute, 3? Jiraiya asked. I thought that you have captured all the Jinchuriki minus Naruto and Fu. Yeah, I thought so as well. But the Jinchuriki of the 8 tails managed to trick us and got away, Obito clarified. The Kumo ninjas were visibly relieved to hear such information, even if the Raikage tried to hide it from the others. I knew somebody as strong as B-san couldn't have been captured by Akatsuki, Darui said in satisfaction. Be my brother is still alive, the Raikage said softly, almost in a whisper. Then, his face turned into a mask of pure anger. Good. Because I will be able to kill him myself. How that dumbass dared to pull such a stunt and make me believe he was dead. Needless to say, Konoha isn't going to hand you the Jinchuriki under our protection, Jiraiya firmly said. And I can tell the Raikage feels the same towards Kumo's Jinchuriki. And we will help them to make sure they won't fall into your hands. Mei stated, searing to speak for both herself, the Kazekage and the Tsuchikage. However, both Raza and Kuratsuchi nodded energically. You should reconsider. Akatsuki has amassed a lot of power over the last years, Obito insisted. Other than our official members and 6.5-tailed beasts, we have an army of an almost 100,000 Zetsu. Even if you joined your armies into a single one, it would still fail to match our numbers. I think we made our answer clear, the Raikage growled at him. I see. In that case, I hereby declare the beginning of the 4th Ninja War, Obito said, as he opened a spiraling dimensional portal to leave the place. The next time we meet, it shall be on the battlefield. And with that, Obito Uchiha disappeared the same way he appeared before them. His departure was followed by a moment of tense silence. Guess that, in the end, the 5 great ninja villages joining forces was inevitable, Mifune said. Since we have no more options to deal with a threat of this magnitude. Hokage Dano, the Land of Iron will also join the alliance in order to help you curb this threat. Your help will be mostly appreciated, Mifune Dano, Jiraiya said with a nod. I believe I can also bring some of the minor villages into the army as well, such as Taki or Aim. Will they be of any use, Hokage-sama? Itachi asked. Aim used to be under Akatsuki's control, and Taki suffered great losses during Haiden and Kakuzu's invasion. Fortunately, we still have Konan, who can fill the position of leader of Aim at our behest, Jiraiya began. And I'm sure that Taki ninjas will be eager to take revenge on the people that destroyed their home. Besides, we helped them retake their village and with the reconstruction efforts, Raza added. They might as well show some gratitude and help us. If we lose, their village will share our fate. Raikage-sama, I believe we should start another search for Killer B-san immediately, Darui advised. The Akatsuki learned that he didn't return to us, meaning that he's still out there, alone and without reinforcements that may protect him from the Akatsuki. Yes. Send a message home to do so immediately, the Raikage agreed. Allow us to help on that matter, Itachi said, taking a step forward. Our summoned animals can make the search for the Jinchuriki much easier. Any help will be welcomed, regardless of where it comes, the Raikage said with a nod. That begets a question, Kuratsuchi spoke up. What should we do with the Jinchuriki? Should we hide them, or should we use them in battle? Personally, I'm partial to the former. We can't risk them being captured by the Akatsuki. A cautious approach, yes. But we shouldn't forget that Akatsuki has many tailed beasts under their control, and they won't hesitate to unleash them upon us. We will need their power to counter them. Besides, I fought alongside Naruto-kun during the Civil War. Despite his youth, he's a powerful ninja, and can be a strong asset on this war. Mei said. Except Akatsuki will be expecting us to do that, Darui intervened. Akatsuki sent their 9 tails against Kumo hoping that we would deploy our Jinchuriki to counter it. Unfortunately, we fell for the trap and lost Yujito as a result. I wouldn't put past them to try the same stunt again, only on a greater scale. The Reikage weighed in Darui's words. Darui speaks the truth. But if our combined forces are unable to beat Akatsuki, hiding them will be in vain, the Reikage said, unsure of what to do. Hokage Dano, Mifune spoke, looking at the white-haired Sannin. Given that you're the supreme commander of the alliance, and 2 of the 3 Jinchuriki are under Konoha's protection, I think the decision should be yours. Jiraiya felt many eyes staring at him as the Hokage pondered over what to do. The father in him screamed to hide Naruto somewhere remote. But the ninja in him told him that no war has even been won by playing it safe. Then again, sending Naruto and Fu into a battlefield like they were now was extremely risky, too much for his taste. That moment, a solution dawned upon him. Something that would solve both their problems at once. Reikage, Jiraiya said, looking at his Kumo counterpart. I believe your brother has perfect control of his tailed beast, am I right? Yes, Killer Bee is a perfect Jinchuriki, the Reikage confirmed. What are you planning, Hokage? Do you think Killer Bee could teach Naruto and Fu to tame their tailed beast as well? Jiraiya asked. Yes, I believe he could, the Reikage said, as he realized what was Jiraiya's plan. Plus, while he does that, we can send the 3 of them to a secret location where they will be safe from Akatsuki. And once they finish their training, we'll have not just 1, but 3 perfect Jinchuriki to aid us with the war effort, Tsunade said in realization. She smiled at her husband. Well thought, Jiraiya. Though, with some luck, it won't have to come to that, and the war will be won by then, the Reikage said. Plus we need to find Bee first. Though I trust he will be fine. Now that the alliance is formed, and the 4th war has been declared, there's also much to do, Mifune began. You need to contact the rulers of your respective countries and tell them about the impending war. We also need to establish a chain of command, and reorganize the 5 armies into a single one. Agreed with Mifune Dano, Jiraiya said with a nod, before turning at the other 4 Kages. Meanwhile, I think we should establish the rest of the allied ninja forces hierarchy. I may be the supreme commander, but I want to hear your input as well. The other 4 Kages nodded in agreement, and the 5 of them plus Mifune continued discussing the chain of leadership of the allied forces. Outskirts of the Land of Iron to the south of the capital of the Land of Iron was a thick forest, full of large trees covered in snow. Said trees were the perfect spot to remain hidden, spot that was chosen by Zetsu, who waited patiently for his master's return. The wait finally came to an end when he saw a spiraling portal appearing near him, and his temporary master emerged from it. Obito looked between annoyed and angry. I take the Kages didn't surrender the Jinchuriki, did they? The white half guessed. It was stupid to hope otherwise, the black half stated. We know our plans will only come to fruition through force. Still, it was worth a shot, Obito replied. Plus I wanted to see the meeting with my own eyes. I was hoping that there would be no consensus, thus making our job easier. But given that they agreed to an alliance, there was no harm in coming out and make a demand. Are you sure we're ready to fight them? The 5 great ninja villages gathered under a single banner is something that has never happened before, a worried Black Zetsu said. Their combined power must be terrifying. Not terrifying enough to curb the might we had amassed, Obito confidently said. Still, my intrusion wasn't a complete waste of time. Apparently, the Raikage was unaware that the Jinchuriki of the Eight Tails escaped from our custody and is still out there. I want you to track him down before our enemies do. Leave that in my hand, the white half said. What will you do now, boss? Obito looked around and narrowed his eyes when his eyes rested on the Three Wolves Mountain. There's nothing to do here anymore. I'll head to the meeting point in the mountain graveyard. Once you track the Eight Tails and Kisame and Deidara return from killing Orochimaru, all of us will devise the strategy for the war. Understood, boss, the black half said. And both Obito and Zetsu disappeared, leaving the snowy forest devoid of any human presence.